Chapter 273, Drawing Portraits for Others. She sent Madame Yang to Huimin Medical Center in the afternoon, but Yundong was still worried about leaving her alone in the newly rented courtyard. Fortunately, shopkeeper Chao's wife was a good person and was also helping out at the medical center, so Yundong asked her to take care of Madame Yang. The other party naturally agreed. She knew that Miss Gu had given her family something good. This small favor was nothing. Yundong was wearing rough clothes, the kind that was very common on the streets. After searching the spatial storage for a long time, she could not find any hair dye. Hence, she went to ask shopkeeper Chao and knew that there were many things that could be used to dye hair. Yundong found an excuse to ask shopkeeper Chao to create 2 hair dye solutions, one black and one white. Now, she had dyed more than half of her hair white and tied her chest flat. Although she was not very mature, she still had some curves. She put on some makeup, and when she turned around, she was a short old man. Yundong only left when she saw that she was fine. Yundong found a blacksmith shop according to the addresses she had previously gathered. 2 brothers owned this shop. It was said that they had a younger brother who went missing during the chaos. The 2 brothers found someone to draw a rough portrait and pasted the notice on the wall. However, after such a long time, they were still nowhere to be found. There was only half of the notice left. Fortunately, there was an address on it. When Yundong walked in with his back hunched, the 2 brothers were stunned. "Sir, what do you want? A scissor or a kitchen knife?" Yundong coughed and waved her hand. She said in a rough voice, "I don't buy things. I saw a notice at the city gate. Are you looking for your brother?" The 2 brothers looked at each other and were a little excited at the same time. "Sir, you've seen him? Do you know where he is?" Yundong shook her head and coughed again. "I've never seen him before." Seeing their disappointed expressions, she added, "Even if I had seen him before, I wouldn't have recognized him. Don't you think about what the person in your portrait looks like? It can't be helped. We spent a lot of money to hire someone to draw it, but it's nothing good." Yundong shook her head. "I'll help you draw a picture. Tell me what your brother looks like." The 2 brothers were stunned again. "Sir, don't worry, I won't take money. I'm just doing a good deed." With that, she took out a charcoal pencil and paper and laid them on the table. "Tell me," she urged impatiently. The 2 brothers thought about it. She didn't charge them, and it didn't look like she was extorting them. In addition, they weren't forging anymore, so why not give it a try? Hence, the 2 of them spoke one after another and described their younger brother's appearance. Yundong was becoming more and more proficient. It did not take long for a lifelike portrait to appear under the eyes of the 2 brothers. The 2 of them were shocked. It was as if their younger brother was standing in front of them. They looked up at Yundong. "Grandpa, you're too capable. Once this picture is posted, anyone who has seen our brother will definitely recognize him. All right, they'll help you write down your address and information. You can paste it on that wall tomorrow morning." "Yes, we'll post it tomorrow." The 2 of them praised the portrait. Yundong left before they could react. She went to the next address. Chapter 274, Someone at home. That family was quite well off and had a few servants. At that time, when the city was in chaos, a maidservant of theirs actually ran away with a lot of gold and silver jewelry. Although they had reported it to the officers, it was obvious that there were too many such things and they could not catch her at all. Yundong had also asked them if they wanted to find the maidservant and let others think that she knew the maidservant's whereabouts and invite her in. In the end, she had been tricked into drawing the maidservant's appearance. She had also drawn the jewelry that the girl had taken away. The 3rd and 4th families. When she came out of the 5th family's house, it was almost time for curfew. She quickly washed off the makeup on her face, put on a hat to cover her white hair, and went to Huimin Medical Center to fetch Madame Yang home. Fortunately, the sky was dark and she was in a hurry to leave. Shopkeeper Chao's wife did not notice anything strange about her. After returning and waiting for Madame Yang to fall asleep, Yundong dyed her hair black. Then, she began to recall Dajiang's appearance and draw him. After painting, just as she was about to write down Dajiang's information, the situation of the 2nd family suddenly flashed across her mind. After some thought, she wrote on the information about Dajiang. This person doesn't pay his debts. If there's news of this person, no matter how many clues there are, you will receive 10 taels of silver if they're true. After writing down the address of this small courtyard, she blew on it, put it away, and went to bed. The next morning, Yundong was woken up by a scream. She quickly got up to take a look and saw Madame Yang holding the portrait. She shouted and jumped, "Dong dong, it's Dad, Dad." "Yes, it's my father, your husband." Yundong smiled helplessly. Madame Yang had a happy smile on her face. Her fingers gently brushed past Dajiang's face on the blueprint, and her eyes were filled with nostalgia. Yundong was stunned for a moment before she suddenly reacted. She should have drawn Dajiang's image and placed it at home so that her mother and siblings could have something to think about. She walked over and hugged Madame Yang gently. "Mother, we'll find father soon." "Yeah." Yundong quickly tidied herself up, changed into women's clothes, and brought Madame Yang to the city gate. As soon as they arrived, they heard a commotion, especially exclamations. "This is too similar. Look, even her hair is strand by strand. Who drew it? I want this person to draw one for me too. Don't even think about it. Didn't you hear what the person posted just now said? The other party didn't take a single cent, he's just doing a good deed to help others." Yundong pursed her lips and smiled. Seeing that there were already 3 paintings pasted on the wall, he took the blueprints and pasted them on. Everyone looked over. Heh, it was also done by the same person. Someone quickly surrounded Yundong. "Miss, did an old man help you draw this?" "That's right. That old man is a good person." "When did he help you draw it? Did you see how he drew it clearly?" "Miss, did you learn it?" The corners of Yundong's mouth twitched. She looked at the scholarly man who spoke last. His eyes were filled with desire, as if as long as she said that she could learn a little, he would immediately let her teach him. Yundong shook her head decisively. "How can I learn it?" Seeing that another person had come to paste the picture, Yundong quickly took advantage of everyone's relaxation and led Madame Yang out of the crowd. Madame Yang heaved a sigh of relief and turned around to look at the picture on the wall, looking very excited. However, when they reached home, Yundong had just opened the courtyard door when her body suddenly froze. There was someone at home. Chapter 275. Pretend no one has been here. Yundong stopped in her tracks and frowned as she pulled Madame Yang to the side. How did they come so quickly? Just as she was thinking about it, the person in the room came out. It was a man in the clothes of an officer. He was someone that Yundong knew, the leader of the officers who came over after she saved the child at the inn that day. The officer stood at the door of the central room and gave her a look, telling her to close the courtyard door first. Yundong had a good impression of him. It was said that not long after the kidnappers were taken away that day, they were asked about the whereabouts of the children who had been kidnapped during the Lantern Festival. The officers were lucky. They had planned to take Bai Yang away, but they did not expect to be caught by Yundong. Later on, the government even sent money to Yundong, saying that it was sent by the children's families. Therefore, when the officer looked mysterious, she closed the courtyard door even though she was puzzled. Then she brought Madame Yang into the central room. The officer's surname was Li. He waited for them to enter before saying, "I'm sorry for scaring you. I was just afraid of alerting the enemy, so I had no choice but to do this." Yundong was puzzled. "What do you mean?" Officer Li explained, "Miss, I'm afraid you don't know. Last year, Qingyuan Prefecture was in chaos. At that time, a bandit leader took the opportunity to enter the city and kill many people. The Xianxia Prefecture sent troops to suppress him, but that bandit leader escaped. Later on, a magical painter from the Xianxia Prefecture drew the appearance of the bandit. Only then did the bandit be brought to justice in 3 days." Magical painter? It's a pity that although the bandit has been beheaded, the little bandits under him have not all been captured. The portrait that Miss took out today should be from the same person as the one that drew the bandit leader. They were both drawn by that magical artist. After the prefecture magistrate found out about this, he guessed that some bandit might come to ask about the artist. He immediately gathered all the constables and guards to the house of the person who posted the portrait today, waiting to catch a turtle in a jar. Yundong could not help but widen her eyes. Where did the new emperor find such a smart new prefecture magistrate? He even thought of this. In fact, Gu Yundong had also guessed that the bandits would come to ask about the artist, so she had written an anonymous letter to analyze the situation. She planned to send it to the government office in a while and give it to Officer Li in front of her. She even thought about what would happen if the government office didn't take it to heart. Therefore, the few families she went to yesterday night had been specially selected. For example, the two brothers from the blacksmith's forge who were tall and not to be trifled with, the big family with guards at home, the family with a few men who lived near the government office. Bandits were usually unwilling to find a family that was too strong and might expose themselves. In the end, they could only choose the weakest one with no foundation, which was only the mother and daughter. She planned to send Madame Yang to the Chao family for the night and then wait to see if any little thieves would come. Unexpectedly, before she could do anything, the prefecture magistrate had already thought of it. Although Gu Yundong had never met the current emperor, from the things he had done after he ascended the throne and the officers he had assigned to govern the towns and cities, Dajiang would definitely prosper under his governance. Seeing that she was silent, Officer Li thought that she was frightened. You don't have to be afraid. I'm not the only one here. There are ambushes around. We definitely won't let anything happen to Mississippi. Only then did Gu Yundong look up. Of course I'm not afraid. I'll pretend that there's no one else in my house and go do my own thing. Chapter 276. There's news of Gu Dajiang. Officer Li smiled and nodded. He knew it. This girl was different from ordinary girls. Otherwise, why would she catch kidnappers in public? Sure enough, Gu Yundong followed Madame Yang into the house. They boiled water, cooked, and talked. Officer Li was also very self-aware. He went to another room and did not come out. It was only at night that he asked Gu Yundong and her mother to stay in their room and not go out. He was on high alert. The reason why small thieves were small thieves was because they were not very smart, so they could not even be a small leader. Hence, when the sky turned dark at night, 4 of them did not disappoint others and sneaked into the courtyard. There was also one person outside. However, in the blink of an eye, a person pounced on him from the left and right. The bandit who was acting as a lookout was taken down before he could even make a sound. Immediately after, the officers outside the door quickly broke open the door and rushed in. The 4 of them were still prying open the door of the central room when they were surrounded in the blink of an eye. The door of the central room opened from the inside. Officer Li sneered at them. You're finally here. What did he mean? Could it be that the officers knew that they would come? Could it be that this was a trap set up by the government to lure them out? Damn it. The few thieves turned around and ran, but there were more officers than them, and they had come prepared. How could they let them leave? However, thieves were different from ordinary thieves. They were indeed ruthless. They took out their daggers and started fighting with a few officers. One of the officers had a cut on his arm, but he still took them down. One by one, they were dragged away with their hands tied and their mouths covered. As for what happened next, it would depend on the prefecture magistrate's ability. Perhaps he could pull out the carrots and bring them out of the mud to catch them all in one fell swoop. Gu Yundong opened a corner of the window and saw the entire process clearly. Officer Li was the last to leave. He glanced at the window. I've disturbed Miss Gu today. Goodbye. Gu Yundong waved her hand. When she saw that everyone had left, she lowered the window. The next day, she went to ask around. As she had expected, the other families did not encounter any thieves, although the officers were also lying in ambush at those places. After this incident, even if the bandits were not all captured, they would probably think that this was a trap set by the government and not dare to act rashly. In the next few days, Gu Yundong would sometimes go to the notice board to take a look. Sometimes she would go elsewhere to inquire. She had even asked Officer Li about Gu Dajiang's whereabouts. Unfortunately, the government office didn't find any information on Gu Dajiang's household registration. Actually, Gu Yundong had known for a long time. After all, when Qin Wenjing agreed to help, he had hired someone to ask the authorities. Unfortunately, there were many refugees and bandits during that period of time. How many people went missing and how many people were killed? There were countless documents missing from the government. It was very difficult to find a person in the vast sea of people. Furthermore, the name Gu Dajiang was too common. There were several of them in the same village, so it was even more difficult to investigate. Nowadays, Qingyuan Prefecture had a lot of things to do. From the prefecture magistrate to the servants, they were all so busy that their feet didn't touch the ground. Who had the time to help you find someone who might be dead or out of Qingyuan Prefecture? The authorities could not find anything, so Gu Yundong thought of looking for her father among the people and posting a missing person notice. Fortunately, the vivid image attracted the attention of many people. Even those who did not often go to the notice board would curiously take a look. In addition, she had attached a reward of 10 taels of silver at the back. There would always be people who wanted to earn this money. Thus, on this day, Gu Yundong had just eaten lunch when she finally received a clue. Chapter 277:1 Have seen Gu Dajiang. The person who came was a woman in her mid-20s. Her hair was tied into a woman's bun, and her clothes were a little tattered. She was still a little nervous when she entered. She looked around as if she was afraid that someone would suddenly jump out. Gu Yundong asked her to sit, but she only dared to sit on half a stool. When she saw that there were only Gu Yundong and Madame Yang in the house, the woman heaved a sigh of relief and said to her, I've seen the person in this portrait. She took off the missing person notice. Perhaps because she was too nervous and hid it in her arms, it looked wrinkled when she took it out. Seeing this, Madame Yang was immediately angry. She went forward and took the notice, placing it on the table and flattening it. The woman was shocked by her actions and stood up abruptly. What are you doing? Gu Yundong hurriedly said, Sister-in-law, don't be nervous. My mother just feels a little heartache when she sees such a good portrait wrinkled. It's fine. You just said that you've seen the person in this portrait. Where did you see him? She tried her best to be gentle, even though she was already very anxious. When the woman heard this, she sat down again. She bit her lip and asked her softly, You said that you would give me 10 taels of silver, right? That depends on whether you're telling the truth or not. Of course it is. The woman hurriedly promised, I swear that everything I'm saying is true. Okay, I'm listening. The woman exhaled and said, This person's name is Gu Dajiang, right? Gu Yundong's eyes lit up. Yes. I've seen him before. It was when the Qingyuan Prefecture was in chaos. I saw it after the soldiers from the Xuanhe Prefecture came here. At that time, the city was in chaos. Our family was poor, and our houses were in tatters. We thought that those refugees and bandits wouldn't like them, so we hid at home and waited for this chaos to pass before coming out. At the mention of the past, the woman still had lingering fear on her face. But I didn't expect them to come to my house. At that time, the soldiers quickly chased after us. Those bandits saw that they couldn't escape, so they captured me and my man. This Gu Dajiang came out at this time. He seemed to have given that officer an idea. Then we were saved and those bandits were captured. Upon hearing Gu Dajiang's name, Madame Yang sat obediently at the side and listened. The woman continued, That officer seems to admire Gu Dajiang very much. He even asked Gu Dajiang to work by his side. However, he didn't succeed. Gu Dajiang said that he wanted to find his wife and children in Qingyuan Prefecture. That officer was quite disappointed. Later on, he said that he could help him find them. When he found them, he would agree to help him. The woman was quite envious at that time. Back then, Gu Dajiang's clothes were tattered. Other than his clean face, his entire body smelled bad. It was obvious that he was a refugee who had escaped from Yongning Prefecture. The officer didn't mind at all. The problem was that Gu Dajiang actually rejected such an opportunity to soar. The woman didn't have a good impression of refugees, even though Gu Dajiang could be considered to have saved them. But at the end of the day, if not for these refugees, why would their Qingyuan Prefecture be in chaos? Why would she be captured by bandits? Why would more than half of her house be smashed? They were even poorer than before. The officer left after quelling the chaos. I heard that he made a great contribution and might go to the capital to become an official. We didn't see Gu Dajiang again and thought that he must have left with that officer. The woman said, I didn't expect to see him again half a month later. Chapter 278. Are you giving me silver? Naturally, Gu Yundong could hear the dissatisfaction in her tone. But as long as the clues were accurate, dissatisfaction was dissatisfaction. She often made others dissatisfied herself. Did she care? Where did you see him? The woman replied, at the city gate. That day, my man was looking for work there. I went over to deliver some food to him and saw Gu Dajiang. At that time, although Gu Dajiang was still very thin, the clothes he was wearing were much better. She felt that the officer must have given him silver before he left. He was really lucky. My man saw him first and even greeted him, the woman suddenly said sourly. He didn't seem to know us anymore. That's true. At that time, he probably only had eyes for that officer. How could he remember small fries like us? Gu Yundong frowned. This person was no longer as cautious as before. The more she spoke, the more emotional she became. She tapped the table. And? Get to the point. My man was a fool. He even went forward to ask if he had found his family. Seeing that she was impatient, the woman was a little afraid and hurriedly said, in the end, Gu Dajiang said that his family wasn't in Qingyuan prefecture and that he had to find them elsewhere. Then he left the city gate. He left Qingyuan prefecture? Gu Yundong had thought of this possibility. The woman nodded. He did. My husband and I saw him carrying a bag out of the city gate with our own eyes. We never saw him again. As she spoke, she leaned closer. Previously, I suspected that he was lying when he said that he wanted to find his wife and children. Tell me, how did he confirm that they weren't in Qingyuan prefecture after searching for half a month? When I saw this notice today, I finally understood. He didn't pay his debts, so he escaped. Gu Yundong thought that Gu Dajiang must have his own way to confirm it. Well, miss, I've said everything I need to say. Shouldn't you give me these 10 taels of silver? Gu Yundong said, but there aren't any useful clues. I still can't find him. Why not? At least you know that Gu Dajiang is no longer in Qingyuan prefecture. You don't have to spend so much effort putting up notices and giving rewards. It will save you a lot of time. She had a point. Then how do I know if you're telling the truth? Of course I'm telling the truth. I've already sworn an oath. Why don't you believe me? The woman stood up anxiously. Hey, don't tell me you don't want to give the 10 taels of silver. Then aren't you lying by posting this notice? Do you know how difficult it was for me to come here? Gu Yundong actually believed 70% to 80% of what the woman said. She could say her father's name, his height, and knew that he was looking for his wife and children here. Seeing that she was silent, the woman became a little anxious. Are you going to give it to me or not? If you don't, Before she could finish speaking, an explosive voice suddenly sounded from outside the door. Wang Xiaomei, are you inside? Come out. Gu Yundong was stunned. The woman's expression changed drastically and she ran out of the central room in shock. However, after running a few steps, she ran back. What should I do? What should I do? Who's outside the door? Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes. He, Wang Xiaomei, stop hiding. I know you're here. Come out quickly, do you hear me? The voice outside the door sounded again. If this continued, the neighbors would come out to watch the commotion. Gu Yundong walked out and opened the door. Chapter 279. Gone. When the man at the door saw that it was a teenage girl who opened the door, he was slightly stunned. Just as he wondered if he had found the wrong door, he saw the woman in the courtyard who was looking for a place to hide. His expression changed as he ran in with large strides. He grabbed her wrist and said sternly, "You're really here. You really went to take off that notice. Do you still have a conscience?" Gu Yundong quietly closed the courtyard door, blocking the neighbors who wanted to watch the show. She slowly walked into the central room. Madame Yang had already hidden when the man came in. At this moment, there was only a man and a woman who looked like a married couple arguing in the central room. Wang Xiaomei was probably in pain from the man's grip. She shouted angrily, "Why am I heartless? It's all for our family. Why don't you take a look at how dilapidated our family is? But you can't take this kind of money. If not for Gu Dajiang, we would have all died. They're here to collect debts. Would they let Gu Dajiang off if they found him? What do you mean we would have died without Gu Dajiang? Without him, the soldiers will save us. It's just a matter of time. You also know that they're looking for Gu Dajiang to collect debt. If he doesn't repay the debt, it means that he's not a good person at all. Whether he's a good person or not, I admit that he saved my life. Let me tell you, Wang Shao, if you dare to take this silver today, I'll divorce you when we get back. Wang Xiaomei was stunned when she heard this. She looked at the man in disbelief. You want to divorce me? Bao Chunhua, you want to divorce me for someone you've only met twice. What did I do wrong? As she spoke, she started crying. So what if I came here to report? I don't know where Gu Dajiang is now. At most, I'll tell them not to look for him in Qingyuan Prefecture. It's a huge world outside. They might not be able to find Gu Dajiang even if they die. You only lost your conscience if you divorce me because of this. She was crying profusely. The man probably realized that he had spoken too harshly. Seeing her cry so miserably, he was at a loss. However, he still straightened his neck and said, "It's not right for you to have such thoughts. All right, stop crying. How can you cry like this in someone else's house? Let's go home." Bao Chunhua pulled her away, but Gu Yundong still handed them the 10 taels of silver. She was a woman of her word. Wang Xiaomei was overjoyed and reached out to take it. Bao Chunhua glared at her. "Don't you dare take it." Wang Xiaomei was so frightened that she immediately retracted her hand and glared at Gu Yundong. "Why didn't you take it out earlier?" Then she was pulled away. Gu Yundong was speechless. It was not her fault. She was just a little cautious. After Wang Xiaomei left, Gu Yundong returned to the central room and saw the portrait on the table. After some thought, she decided to paste it back on the notice wall. She waited at home for more than 10 days. During this period, 3 more people came claiming that they had seen Gu Dajiang. One of them was a man whose face was red from drinking. He spoke incoherently and looked like he was here to extort money. One was an old lady who had a small wonton stall. Although she was old, she had a good memory. She said that Gu Dajiang had gone to her stall to ask for a bowl of wontons. During the conversation, he had mentioned that he was leaving Qingyuan Prefecture to look for his wife and children. However, the old lady did not know where he went. There was also a scholar-like person who said that he had seen Gu Dajiang talking to an officer before that officer left. After consolidating the information, Gu Dajiang was indeed no longer in Qingyuan Prefecture. She rubbed the space between her eyebrows. Wouldn't that be like looking for a needle in a haystack? Madame Yang suddenly blinked and said, "The Gu family." Chapter 280. Returning to the Gu family. Gu Yundong was stunned and immediately stood up. That's right, the Gu family? Many of the refugees who had escaped from Yongning Prefecture had returned after the disaster relief from the imperial court. When Gu Dajiang left Qingyuan Prefecture, he either went to the Xuanhe Prefecture after receiving news of them, or he only knew that they weren't in Qingyuan Prefecture. Then, the first place he would go would probably be the Gu family. It was closer to Yongning Prefecture from Qingyuan Prefecture. Gu Yundong thought that since she was out, she might as well take this opportunity to return to old Gu's house. It would be best if they could find Gu Dajiang. If they couldn't, they had to seek revenge. She still remembered the time when Gu Dai hit her on the head and stole her money. At the thought of this, Gu Yundong lowered her head and began to write. She wrote 2 letters, one to Aunt Ku and the other to Shao Qingyuan. She said that she might need some time to go back and asked them to take care of the family and not worry about her. After writing, she stuffed it into a long and thin post box made of bamboo and brought the letter to shopkeeper Chao. She wanted to find out if there were reputable caravans going to the Xuanhe Prefecture in 2 days. Unexpectedly, the Huimin Medical Center was about to send a batch of medicine to the medical center in the Xuanhe Prefecture. Moreover, they were in a hurry and would set off in the afternoon. Gu Yundong immediately handed the mailbox containing the letter to shopkeeper Chao. She gave the leader of the delivery team money and asked him to deliver the letter. With shopkeeper Chao around, there was naturally no need to worry. Shopkeeper Chao was a little emotional when he found out that she was leaving. Gu Yundong had asked him to tell Bai Yang that she was leaving if he saw him again, so that she would not drop by. Then, Gu Yundong began to pack her things. She went to the notice board and took off Gu Dajiang's portrait. From Wang Xiaomei, other than knowing that her father was not in the Qingyuan Prefecture, She also knew that her father had also contributed to catching bandits. She was worried that someone would hate him and look for him everywhere with this portrait. This portrait was too lifelike. When Gu Yundong took off the portrait, she heard the surrounding people discussing. Only then did she know that someone had really used this portrait to find the person. It was the blacksmith brothers. Gu Yundong felt that it was quite good. Although it was immoral to use them back then, she had also helped them. She hoped that others would find what they wanted. When Gu Yundong took the portrait and left the notice wall with Madame Yang, she happened to see Bao Chunhua. This person frowned and looked at her with a complicated gaze. After a long time, he went forward and said, "What my wife said that day was all fake. She made it up. Gu Dajiang might still be in Qingyuan prefecture." Gu Yundong wanted to laugh. Although Wang Xiaomei was a little selfish and heartless, this Bao Chunhua was not bad. She took 2 steps closer and said in a low voice, "Brother, don't worry. Gu Dajiang doesn't owe me money. I only wrote on the notice that he doesn't want to repay the debt because I want to find him as soon as possible." She didn't mention her relationship with Gu Dajiang. After all, it wasn't to that extent. Bao Chunhua was stunned. "Really? Otherwise, do you think 2 weak women like us can really ask Gu Dajiang for the debt even if we find him?" She took out a banknote worth 10 taels of silver. "This is the promised silver. Take it." Bao Chunhua took a few steps back and refused to take it. "I can't take it. My wife was up to no good. But she gave me information after all. Take it." Gu Yundong stuffed the banknote into his hand and left with Madame Yang. Bao Chunhua stood rooted to the ground and did not speak for a long time. Gu Yundong bought some more things from the Qingyuan prefecture and returned the house. She set off the next day. Chapter 281. Explosive luck. This time, they did not feel as anxious as before. Instead, they walked much slower. The journey to Eternal Peace Prefecture was obviously much more desolate. Previously, the refugees had migrated on a large scale and eaten everything they could on the way. Now that everything was slowly recovering, there were many tea houses on the way. Although the tea leaves cooked were all of inferior quality, they were still enough for everyone to take a break. Gu Yundong walked just like that for 2 days. That day, she ordered a bowl of fried rice with plain water in the tea house. Unexpectedly, the taste of the fried rice was simply indescribable. Gu Yundong really could not eat it, but Madame Yang did not feel much. It seemed all right, but after eating more than half a bowl, she drank 2 pots of water. Hence, not long after setting off in the afternoon, she could not hold it in anymore and stammered that she wanted to get out of the carriage. Gu Yundong did not know whether to laugh or cry. She found a secluded spot and parked the carriage. Then, she brought her inside and kept watch for her so that she could answer nature's call. However, Gu Yundong had only waited for a moment when she realized that there was something familiar on the tree trunk in the distance. She had good eyesight and roughly read it. After squinting and staring for a while, she suddenly took out her own manuscript from her space. It was the medical book that Song Dajiang had copied previously. After flipping through a few pages, she indeed found a medicinal herb. Although Gu Yundong could not remember the characteristics of herbs, she was a painter and was sensitive to pictures. Coupled with the introduction in the medical book, the herb did grow in the cracks of the tree trunk. There were also purple flowers. It looked ripe. Joy flashed across Gu Yundong's face. Her luck was so good. She could even meet a precious medicinal herb when they came to pee. Madame Yang had already tidied up her complicated clothes and walked over. "Dong Dong, let's go." "Mother, let's go over there to pick something." Madame Yang looked in the direction she was pointing and nodded. Gu Yundong held her hand and walked carefully, avoiding the messy grass. When they finally reached the tree, Gu Yundong's face darkened. On the other side of the tree, a man was climbing up. His hand was about to reach the herb. Gu Yundong glared at him. "Wait a minute." The man was so frightened by her that he almost fell from the tree. He hurriedly hugged the tree trunk with both hands and looked down. Only then did Gu Yundong realize that the other party was only a child less than 10 years old. At this moment, the child opened her black eyes and looked at her in confusion. What's wrong?" Gu Yundong coughed lightly. "Well, do you know what this is?" "Isn't it a flower?" the boy said. I think it looks good, so I'll take it back for my sister to play with. Play with? It's an herb. Gu Yundong's head hurt. This was first come, first served. She was not someone who could easily bully by a child. But, sister, do you like this flower too? I'll give it to you. I'll help you pick it. He had an innocent smile on his face and was very enthusiastic. Gu Yundong's conscience hurt a little. Just now, she was still thinking of tricking this child into giving her the flower. The child quickly plucked the flower and handed it to her in a hurry. Then he said shyly, Sister, you're very beautiful. The flower is also beautiful. Then he was about to leave. Gu Yundong clutched her chest. Wait, these are herbs. They'll pay for them. She was the kind of person who could not withstand sugar-coated bullets. The child was stunned for a moment before his eyes lit up. Herbs? Then I have another one. Sister, do you still want it? Another one? Wasn't this medicinal herb very precious? Why was it so common? Yes, where is it? It's over there. My basket is there. I'll take you there. He was very happy and hurriedly led the way. Gu Yundong followed, but not long after, she suddenly stopped. A moment later, she turned her head stiffly and looked at a grave not far away. Chapter 282. Cousin is dead. The child walked for a while before realizing that she was not following him. He hurriedly turned his head to look. Seeing that she was staring at the grave not far away, he was a little vexed and said uneasily, Sister, are you afraid of this? Then I'll take you to another path. Don't be afraid. Well, just take a detour. It's not far. Actually, there were more than one grave here. He was just hasty and was used to this path. He didn't expect this. Looking at their good clothes, they definitely didn't walk the mountain path often. He should have asked the sister to wait for him and brought the things over himself. Gu Yundong heaved a sigh of relief and shook her head. They'll go over and take a look. She still held Madame Yang's hand and slowly walked towards the grave she had just seen. The grave was very simple, and the tombstone in front was only a rough wooden board. What made Gu Yundong's expression change was the words carved on the wooden board, Tomb of my beloved wife, Bien Melun. Below that was, Husband, Ding Jincheng. It was rare to see someone with the surname Bien. Coincidentally, her eldest uncle's surname was Bien. Her eldest aunt's daughter was called Bien Melun. Eldest aunt's son-in-law was called Ding Jincheng. Although she knew that it was hard to predict life and death on the way to escape, as long as she did not see their bodies or hear news of their death, she would always think positively. However, she did not expect to see this grave at this moment. The child walked to her side and looked at her, then at the graves. He said in a low voice, Sister, there are a few graves here. I heard that they all died after escaping from Yongning Prefecture. Do you know the people inside? Gu Yundong took a deep breath and blinked. Feeling less bitter, she slowly nodded. She might be my cousin. The child immediately fell silent, not knowing what to say to comfort her. After a while, he said softly, Maybe they have the same name? Some time ago, someone came to move his family's grave, but they moved the wrong one. That person is alive and well. Gu Yundong was stunned. She turned to look at the child who was trying his best to comfort her and nodded. What you said makes sense. Maybe she wasn't dead? There were always many mistakes in this world. She took another look at the grave and thought for a moment before asking the child, Do you live nearby? Yes, that's our village. Let's go to your village to take a look. I want to ask someone to help repair this grave. After we confirm it, we'll decide if we should move the grave. If she was really her cousin, she would naturally come over. Moving the grave was not a small matter. If it wasn't for her cousin, it wouldn't be a big deal to fix it. The child nodded and brought her to the place where he kept his basket. Because of this incident, the child was very silent along the way. His destination was not far away. He saw his things and quickly ran forward. Gu Yundong finally understood why he did not carry the basket with him. The basket was filled with pig grass, wild vegetables, and wild fruits. It looked very heavy. This child was thin and weak. He would die of exhaustion if he carried it. The child squatted down and began to rummage through the basket on his back. After a while, he smiled and took out a purple flower. Sister, this is it. Gu Yundong took a closer look and could not help but pat her forehead. It seemed that Dr. Song was not lying to her. This medicinal herb was indeed rare. Seeing her like this, the smile on the child's face froze. It's not an herb. Chapter 283. How much is it? Gu Yundong shook his head. I don't think this flower was picked from a tree, right? No. This was found in the grass. It had been blown over by the wind back then. It swayed beautifully. The child shook his head in disappointment and kept the flower. It turned out that only herbs that grew on trees were considered medicinal herbs. Gu Yundong waved the one in his hand. But there's one here. It's not like there's no harvest, right? The child raised his head again and nodded vigorously. Gu Yundong then asked, Is your village far from here? Just go down that way. It's not far. The kid pointed. Although it was not far, in fact, it was still a distance away. Gu Yundong's carriage was still parked on the other side. She picked up the child's basket. Let's take the carriage. I still have to find someone in your village to help tidy up the graves. Do you have any rooms at home? Can I rent them for 2 days? The child quickly nodded. Yes, yes, yes. However, he quickly frowned again. But my house is dilapidated. You must not be used to living here. Gu Yundong thought to herself, when she was escaping from the disaster, what kind of lousy place had she not stayed in? There was nothing to be afraid of. The three of them walked to the carriage. Only then did Gu Yundong know that the child's name was Stinky Egg. His real name did not exist. When Stinky Egg reached the carriage, he could not help but look at it curiously. Gu Yundong asked him to get into the carriage. He quickly shook his head, afraid that he would dirty the carriage. In the end, he sat carefully on the shaft of the carriage with the basket on his back and spoke to Gu Yundong, who was also sitting on the shaft. Madame Yang gave him a piece of pastry, but he only accepted it after rejecting it for a long time. Gu Yundong saw that this child was really honest. She thought for a moment and asked him while they were on the way, I'm asking you how much you plan to sell these herbs for. Ah. Stinky Egg blinked, a little distressed. He didn't know how much it was worth, but seeing that his sister seemed to value it very much, this medicinal herb should be very precious, right? After thinking for a while, he stretched out a trembling finger hesitantly. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. 100 taels? Stinky Egg was shocked and hurriedly shook his head. No, it's 1 tael. Gu Yundong was speechless. Although Dr. Song, that unreliable person, did not specify the value of this herb on the medical book, based on his knowledge and experience as an imperial physician in the palace, even he said that the herb in this book was precious. It was at least 50 taels. This child wanted 1 tael? Gu Yundong felt that she would probably be struck by lightning. Stinky Egg explained in a low voice, Our family owes someone 2 taels of silver. I don't know how much this costs either. Can I sell it for 1 tael? Sister, if you think it's too expensive, you can give me however much you want. Gu Yundong shook her head. I don't think it's expensive. I just think it's too cheap. Giving you 1 tael seems like I'm bullying you. Ah. Stinky Egg blinked. 1 tael was still cheap? In his heart, 1 tael of silver was already a lot of money. His family had owed 2 taels of silver for a year and had yet to repay it. However, he was still very happy to hear Gu Yundong say that. Hence, he pursed his lips and suppressed his smile. He said, Then 2 taels it is. He still couldn't control his expression, and the corners of his mouth curled up. Yes, with 2 taels of silver, the family would be much more relaxed. Gu Yundong looked at the sky speechlessly. It's still too cheap. Ah. Stinky Egg was shocked and could not help but swallow hard. How much silver is that? Chapter 284. Silly Stinky Egg, about 50 taels. Gu Yundong thought sadly. If it was possible, she would also give him 2 taels of silver. Really, it was not easy for her to earn money. But she wanted to live a peaceful life. It was better to be a good person. However, 50 taels of silver was the bottom line. It could not be more. After all, she had spent a lot of money in the Qingyuan prefecture. She had paid a sum of money for accommodation, the portrait, food, sending the letter, and buying all kinds of things. Also, it seemed that she had not given the consultation fee to Dr. Song. Uncle Bai Yang had given the man silver as thanks, and the officers had also rewarded her. This trip didn't seem to be a loss. Thinking of this, Gu Yundong felt much better. 50 taels of silver was not a lot at all. After she finished pondering, she happened to see a fork in the road ahead. She quickly turned around and asked Stinky Egg, "Where?" She stopped mid-sentence. She watched helplessly as Stinky Egg's eyes widened like a wooden man's, and the basket in her hand fell without warning. Gu Yundong hurriedly shouted, grabbed the basket on her back, and placed it inside. Stinky Egg trembled violently and finally came back to his senses. He pointed to the road on the left. Then he dug his ears hard. "Sister Gu, I think I was struck by lightning just now. I was unconscious and heard something strange." The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. "You didn't hear wrongly. It's 50 taels." Stinky Egg looked like he had been struck by lightning again. Gu Yundong shook her head and ignored him. After a while, Stinky Egg grabbed the shaft of the carriage and smiled foolishly. Seeing that Stinky Egg's village was not far away, Gu Yundong shook him and reminded him, "But don't tell anyone. If others ask, just say that the herbs were sold for 2 taels of silver and that they were all used to repay the debt. Do you hear me?" This village was very poor. After all, many refugees had passed through the village from Yongning Prefecture to Qingyuan Prefecture a few months ago. Although this place still belonged to Qingyuan Prefecture, if the prefectural city was in such a state, how good could the surrounding villages be? If others knew that his family suddenly had a lot of money, they would probably be in trouble. Stinky Egg hurriedly nodded and pointed to a courtyard. "That's my house." The carriage went all the way, just like the first time they went to Yongfu village. Many people followed curiously. Gu Yundong had to look for the village chief to sort out the graves. When they found out that someone was hiring people to work, they naturally fought to recommend themselves. But Gu Yundong did not need many people. In the end, including Stinky Egg's father, only 3 people were enough. She had also seen Stinky Egg's family. His parents were indeed very honest. He also had a timid sister who hid shyly when she saw her. She had given 50 taels of silver to Stinky Egg's parents and explained the situation. The two were so excited that they cried tears of joy. They slaughtered a chicken for Gu Yundong and her mother on the spot. Gu Yundong stayed in the village for 2 days before leaving. Unexpectedly, it was raining again. Therefore, by the time she set off again, 5 to 6 days had passed. Stinky Egg and her sister were already familiar with her and could not bear to part with her. The rest of the journey was rather smooth, but after seeing Bien Mulan's grave, Gu Yundong's heart felt heavy. Madame Yang seemed to understand and took a few days to recover. Half a month later, the carriage finally entered the prefectural city of Yongning Prefecture. Compared to Qingyuan Prefecture, this place seemed even more desolate. Gu Yundong found an inn and planned to stay in the city for a day before going to the county tomorrow. However, just as she settled down and was about to bring Madame Yang out to buy some clothes, she felt as if someone was watching her from behind. Chapter 285. "So you're that Quack?" Gu Yundong frowned. When she reached the entrance of the alley, she finally stopped and turned to look at the person behind them. When that person saw her turn around, not only did he not leave, but he also approached her with a happy expression. Gu Yundong tried her best to recall for a long time. She was sure that she had never seen this thin middle-aged man. The man walked up to them in a few steps and looked at Madame Yang. "Sister-in-law, we meet again. Do you still remember me?" However, Madame Yang's body suddenly tensed up. She subconsciously touched her head and leaned against Gu Yundong tightly. Her other hand almost hurt her palm. Gu Yundong frowned and stood in front of Madame Yang, blocking her view. "May I ask who you are? Do you know my mother?" "Your mother?" The man immediately smiled. "So you're this sister-in-law's daughter. Where's your father? Why don't I see him?" "You know my parents?" Gu Yundong was surprised. The man nodded and said with a smile, "Of course I know her. Previously, when your mother came to the prefectural city to treat her illness, I was the one who performed acupuncture on her. However, after what happened in Yongning Prefecture, I didn't see your parents again. I was worried about your mother's condition and was afraid that she would delay the treatment. Now that she looks good, It seems that the acupuncture last time was very effective. Coincidentally, our family's medical center is over there. Miss, bring your mother over. I'll take a look at her again. Gu Yundong's pupils constricted and her face was instantly filled with anger. She still clearly remembered what doctor he had said after seeing her mother. If it weren't for the fact that she had met a quack doctor who didn't have the ability and still performed acupuncture, her mother's illness wouldn't have become even more serious. If she had not met Song Dajiang this time, who knew what would have happened to her mother? Great, so this was the quack doctor. She hadn't even come looking for him, but this person had already bumped into her. Dr. Yu did not notice Gu Yundong's expression. He was secretly glad. He really did not expect to meet this fool from the Gu family here. Looking at her clothes, she was much richer than in the past. She must be rich now. Her man was not by her side, and there was only a little girl in her teens in front of her. His medical hall had not been doing much business recently. Some time ago, there was a new medical hall in the city. The shopkeeper and waiter there were like slaves. No matter what patient it was, they would welcome them warmly with a smile. It was simply demeaning to their reputation as doctors. However, those patients just had to fall for this trick. All of them went to this new medical hall to treat their illnesses. Later on, they even went around saying that the doctors in the medical center were skilled and made the old medical center cold. Now that he had finally met this fool, he could finally open for business. Dr. Yu had a deep impression of Gu Dajiang and his wife. After all, although the two of them were dressed in tattered clothes, they were quite good-looking. Especially since Gu Dajiang was extremely good to his silly wife. He coaxed her like she was a child. If it was Dr. Yu himself, his wife would definitely be locked up at home first to avoid embarrassing herself. At that time, he would have an excuse to take in a concubine. How good would that be? Dr. Yu despised Gu Dajiang, but on the surface he still said to Gu Yundong very kindly, "Miss, don't worry. I'm just taking a simple look. After all, I treated your mother in the past. If she recovers, I won't charge you. If she doesn't recover, we can't waste time. We have to perform acupuncture again as soon as possible." Gu Yundong was so angry that she laughed. She raised her leg and kicked him. Chapter 286, Go home and eat soil dr. Yu exclaimed and rolled on the ground. The people beside him quickly looked over. Someone reached out and helped him up. However, Dr. Ye's face was ashen. He pointed at Gu Yundong with a trembling finger. "You, what are you doing?" "What am I doing?" Gu Yundong sneered. She wanted to kick him again, but Madame Yang, who was behind her, pulled her tightly. She could only stand on the spot. "What? You don't even know any medical skills, yet you still dare to inject someone's head with needles. You are a sick person with a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks. Your patients are simply unlucky to meet you. Gods are everywhere. How many people have you killed? Aren't you afraid that those people will come to settle scores with you in the middle of the night?" Dr. Ye's expression changed slightly. The people beside him also looked at him in surprise. Someone recognized him and could not help but frown. Dr. Yu panicked and said angrily, "Where did this wild girl come from? What nonsense are you talking about? I was kind enough to treat your mother, but you want to shirk the consultation fee and spread rumors about me, ruining my reputation. When have I killed someone?" He naturally knew how bad his medical skills were. Therefore, when he encountered patients with minor illnesses and pains, he would stall for time to get them to take expensive medicine. Anyway, they would not die. He would let them do it a few more times. He would shake his head if he could not treat a serious illness. He would the patients prepare for their funeral. Whether they could survive or not was up to fate. He would cheat Madame Yang firstly because the other party was not from the prefecture capital. He would charge as much as he could. He would not have a chance next time. Secondly, Madame Yang was a fool. Even if he treated her wrongly, she would not be able to explain it clearly. Therefore, Dr. Yu really did not prescribe the wrong medicine in the prefecture capital to cause death. He felt that his conscience was clear. Gu Yundong picked up a broken piece of wood and threw it at him. "I've ruined your reputation?" Some time ago, the imperial physician who retired from the palace personally treated my mother. He personally said that quack doctors misled people and dared to inject needles into people's heads without knowing anything. It caused my mother to vomit blood and faint for a few days, becoming weaker and weaker day by day. If I hadn't met that imperial physician, my mother would have been killed by you now. You met us today and still want to trick us into paying you for your treatment? It's already good enough that I didn't settle scores with you. It was physician He who said that quacks misled people, but this did not stop her from using physician Song's name to scare people. Everyone, take a good look at this person's face. He doesn't even have basic medical ethics. What kind of doctor is he? Go home and eat dirt. When everyone heard that the imperial physician had come out of the imperial hospital, they inexplicably believed her. Someone even whispered, "Speaking of which, Dr. Yu seems to take a long time to treat people." That's right. The last time my neighbor caught a cold, it wasn't very serious. However, after seeing Dr. Yu, she took a full month of bitter medicine. When Dr. Yu heard what the others said, his face alternated between green and white. He glared at Gu Yundong angrily and turned to leave. Stop. Gu Yunshu still wanted to hit him. The more she spoke, the angrier she became. This scumbag had caused her mother to become like this. If not for him messing around, her mother would have been cured by Dr. He in the Xuanhe prefecture last time. Why wait for Dr. Songs by Musi? She wished she could chop this beast into pieces. But Madame Yang held onto her tightly. Gu Yundong turned around and realized that her face was pale and she was sweating profusely. Gu Yundong was shocked and hurriedly held her. Mother, what's wrong? Chapter 287. Don't let her scream. Don't let her cry. Gu Yundong was extremely vexed. She had been so focused on beating up Dr. Yu that she had neglected her mother. She quickly helped Madame Yang sit down. An aunt kindly gave her a glass of water. Gu Yundong took it and thanked her before feeding it to Madame Yang. Then she wiped her sweat with a handkerchief. Mother, how are you? However, Madame Yang suddenly hugged her. Dong, I'm not going. He's doing acupuncture. It hurts. It hurts so much. Gu Yundong was stunned. She quickly patted her back. All right. I'm not going. I'll stay here with mother, okay? Madame Yang nodded and slowly exhaled. After a while, she smiled again. She held Gu Yundong's hand and said, "Go back and rest." Yeah. The two of them returned to the inn. Along the way, Gu Yundong chatted and laughed with Madame Yang. She did not mention Dr. Yu at all. However, the anger in her heart kept rising. When she reached the entrance of the inn, she saw a few beggars squatting not far away. Her eyes narrowed slightly. If Madame Yang didn't let her go, could she not find someone else? After entering the room, Gu Yundong wanted to coax Madame Yang to rest. Unexpectedly, she took the initiative to hold Gu Yundong's hand and said very seriously, "Dongdong, I'm not going. He poked my head. It hurts. He didn't even let me scream or cry." She became aggrieved. Gu Yundong's heart ached when she heard that. Quack doctors harmed people. It was simply intolerable for such a person to live so comfortably. As she took out the puzzle for Madame Yang, she wiped her face and asked in a very gentle voice, "Where's father? Was father not around?" Huh. Madame Yang thought for a moment. He's boiling water. The doctor asked your father to boil water. He needed it. Gu Yundong understood. Dr. Yu had deliberately instructed Gu Dajiang to boil water and then inject Madame Yang. She wasn't allowed to scream or cry. Gu Dajiang couldn't hear her voice, and he didn't expect a doctor in the prefecture to not know how to administer acupuncture. He didn't expect her to suffer so much pain. Gu Yundong was furious. Wasn't her father quite smart? Why did he make a mistake at this time and not see the true nature of a quack? Your father was so worried about me, Madame Yang said. I laughed with him after he boiled the water. Gu Yundong took a deep breath and said with a smile, "Yes, mother is so obedient. But if it hurts in the future, you must scream. Otherwise, we won't know that the person is a bad person." All right. Madame Yang nodded and took the puzzle. She hadn't seen Shu and Kiki today. If she pieced the puzzle together quickly, she would be able to see them. Gu Yundong was slightly relieved to see that she seemed to be fine again. She called her softly, "Mother?" "Huh." Madame Yang didn't even look up. "Aren't you afraid of needles?" At least, she was calm after Song Dajiang injected her twice. Other than being a little nervous, she was not afraid. Madame Yang looked up in confusion. "Why should I be afraid? Dr. Song was fine. Dong Dong was there, so I was not afraid. That bad person was fierce to me and glared at me, not letting me scream." Gu Yundong did not ask further. Madame Yang was not afraid of needles, but humans. Dr. Song spoke softly. He would chat with Madame Yang first and let her speak if she was uncomfortable. He did not feel any pain when he performed acupuncture her. Moreover, she had always been by her side. Of course, this was the best. It was just that she was afraid of the bad doctor, so she just asked that person not to appear in front of Madame Yang. She looked at Madame Yang's excited face and got up. "Mother, you'll get the waiter to serve the food. I'll be ready soon." Gu Yundong went downstairs, but left the inn and walked towards where the beggars were. Chapter 288. Fire. At this moment, Dr. Yu was sweating and anxiously entering the Renxin Medical Hall. How unlucky. That girl who looked easy to bully was actually so fierce. Fortunately, he ran quickly. Otherwise, everyone would know about this. The owner of the medical center was drinking tea in the backyard with his legs crossed. When he saw him running over with a guilty expression, he could not help but ask, "What are you doing? You're so flustered. Those who don't know might think that a dog is chasing you behind." Yu Wei froze and immediately turned around with a flattering smile. "Boss, I saw that the sky was gloomy and it was about to rain. I ran a little faster." The owner of Renxin Medical Hall was surnamed Gung. When he heard this, he looked up. "Isn't the weather quite good? I heard from the uncle who sold the groceries that it might be going down soon." "Is that so?" Boss Gung's face was filled with disbelief, but he quickly put this matter aside and asked irritably, "How's business today?" "It's just a few minor illnesses." Speaking of this, Yu Wei had a bitter expression on his face. Even so, they're still finding all kinds of excuses to ask for arrears in treatment fees. "No." Boss Gung snorted. "It's all because of that new lousy medical center that snatched the patients. A strong dragon can't suppress a local snake. They came from other prefectural cities and don't know any rules before opening a medical center." He stood up and took 2 steps in the courtyard. "No, I can't wait anymore. I'll get someone to smash this lousy medical center tomorrow." In fact, Renxin Medical Hall was quite big at first. It was considered one of the top medical facilities in Yongning Prefecture. There were also a few doctors in the medical hall. Otherwise, Gu Dajiang wouldn't have brought Madame Yang over. However, during the disaster, refugees appeared everywhere and the medical hall was closed. The doctors in the medical center had also left or died. Currently, there were only 2 doctors left. One was Dr. Yu, who was only average in medical skills and was hired because of his relationship with the Gung family. However, at this critical juncture, several new clinics were opened. Among them, the Huimin Medical Center was the most infuriating. When Yu Wei heard him say this, he quickly went up and asked, "What does the boss plan to do? Find a person who is about to die and carry him to the medical center?" "No, this method is too old-fashioned. Think of something else." "Then, should we say that their medicinal herbs are inferior but sold at a high price?" "No, this has been used on other clinics last time, and it's not of much use." "Then send some silver to their doctors so that they can fight each other?" "You think my money came from the wind and you're giving them silver? Keep thinking." "Yes, find a few hooligans." No. Think again." Yu Wei frowned and began to think. The 2 of them pondered again and again until the sky turned dark. Then, they entered the house and lit the oil lamp. The 2 of them pondered for another hour before they were finally satisfied. "All right, go and rest. We'll leave early tomorrow morning." "All right, don't worry, boss. I will definitely make sure that Huimin Medical Center can't continue operating in our Yongning Prefecture. I will let it know that it can't offend just anyone." Boss Gung was very satisfied with his hot-blooded speech. Yu Wei smiled and was about to leave. However, just as he turned around, his nose twitched slightly, as if he had smelled something. "Boss, do you smell?" before he could finish speaking, he saw flames soaring into the sky outside. His expression instantly changed. There's a fire. Boss, there's a fire. Chapter 289. Gu Yundong said the fire boss Gung also stood up and rushed out of the room. Yue couldn't care less. He ran towards the courtyard door at the back anxiously. When he reached the back door, he realized that it could not be opened at all. He quickly turned around to look for an axe. He did not expect it to be snatched away by Boss Gung, who had also run over. He was stunned. Boss Sigh, you what? Why are you running? Can't you smell that the medicine in our clinic is burnt? Hurry up and save the medicine. As he spoke, he kicked Yue into the storeroom. The fire came from the hall, and the medicine in the cabinet in the hall might not be able to be rescued. However, there was even more medicine in the storeroom. That was his assets. Without those assets, how could he open a clinic? He could just wait to go bankrupt. I'm telling you, if you dare to run, you'll break your legs. Seeing that the fire had not spread to the storeroom, Yue gritted his teeth and went in. Boss Gung threw the axe aside and followed him into the storeroom. The two of them carried the herbs to the cart in the courtyard bit by bit. They were sweating profusely and their backs ached. Seeing that the fire was about to reach them, Yue retreated after only moving a third of the medicinal herbs. Boss, let's escape quickly. Otherwise, I'll be too late. At this moment, the sound of people coming and going to put out the fire could be heard outside the door. It seemed like someone was helping to smash the backyard door. Boss Gung was relieved and said to Yue, let's each carry out another bag. Take out the boxes in the innermost area. Yue went in hurriedly. At this moment, the person who was smashing the door outside finally came in. At first glance, he almost vomited blood from anger when he saw the two of them running into the storeroom to move the medicine in the thick smoke. Are the two of you crazy? Such a big fire is coming. Instead of escaping or putting out the fire, you actually want to move the herbs. Is money more important than human lives? The people outside came in one after another. They fetched water and put out the fire. Fortunately, the houses nearby were not close to each other, and they reacted in time, so the spread was not too big. Gu Yundong still did not know how serious the incident at Renshin Medical Hall was. She rested after accompanying Madame Yang for dinner. The next day, she packed her things and prepared to leave. Unexpectedly, just as she walked out of the inn, a group of people suddenly rushed over. The leader, He, pointed at her with a trembling finger and said, "It's her. She was the one who got someone to burn down our medical center. It's her." Gu Yundong was surprised. Burn down the medical center? Yui's face was dark, and his clothes were tattered. She almost didn't recognize him. This was perhaps because of this, Madame Yang did not recognize him, so she was not as flustered as yesterday. She only grabbed Gu Yundong's hand in confusion. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. "Uncle, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. What do you mean by burning down your medical center? Please explain what happened." "Uncle, you're the uncle. Yue, you even hit me yesterday." He wiped his face forcefully, but his sleeve was black. The more he wiped, the dirtier he became. "Miss, Renshin Medical Hall was on fire last night and the fire was only put out this morning. The owner of the medical hall, Gung Yi, had his leg injured, and all the medicinal herbs in the hall were destroyed. The doctor of the medical hall, Yue, claims that you ordered someone to set the fire to take revenge on him. Please come with us." A constable walked forward and said to Gu Yundong with a cold face. Chapter 290. Kneeling wrong. Gu Yundong understood. So she was not the only one who had been offended by Renshin Medical Hall, right? She glanced at Yue. "Is it me just because he said so? Where's the evidence? You also said that he has a personal grudge against me. I'm afraid he's taking this opportunity to frame me." "Bullshit. I'm telling the truth." The constable said expressionlessly, "Whether it's true or not, the prefecture magistrate will find out. There's no need for the two of you to argue here. If there's anything, you can talk it out at the government office." Gu Yundong had seen quite a few constables, but this was the first time she had seen someone so impartial. It seemed like there was no need to set off today. She would just make a trip to the government office. She held Madame Yang's hand and comforted her softly. Only then did the constable look back at her. As soon as they left, the crowd who had joined in the fun also followed behind, wanting to see what was going on. Gu Yundong realized that she was really fated with the government office. Whenever she went to a prefectural city, she would have to deal with the government office there. Although she had never seen the prefecture magistrate of Xuanhe Prefecture, he took care of her on account of Niekong. She had never seen the prefecture magistrate of Qingyuan Prefecture either, but it could be seen that he was a very smart person to set up an ambush to capture a small thief. Now that she was finally going to meet the prefecture magistrate, she suddenly felt a little excited. However, this excitement disappeared when she was about to kneel. Damn it, it was better not to see him. In order not to let Madame Yang suffer, Gu Yundong simply let her stand outside and listen to the trial. Coincidentally, the auntie who had given them water yesterday was also there, so Gu Yundong asked her to help take care of her mother. Then she walked in and knelt on the ground unwillingly. The iron-faced constable wanted to remind her that the way she knelt was wrong, but he saw the prefecture magistrate come out. The prefecture magistrate raised his eyebrows and didn't say anything, so the constable shut his mouth. As soon as Yue saw him, he shouted, "Sir, you have to uphold justice for me." Shut up. How can you make a ruckus in court? Yue's voice stopped abruptly. He looked with a trembling expression at the private advisor who spoke. Gu Yundong pursed her lips and wanted to laugh. She looked at the prefecture magistrate and saw him sitting lazily on a chair. No wonder he didn't care that her kneeling posture was wrong. It turned out that he didn't sit properly either. The prefecture magistrate didn't say anything either. He just glanced at the private advisor beside him. The private advisor coughed lightly. "All right, tell me the cause and effect of the matter." "Yes, my lord." Yue wiped his tears and began to speak. "I'm a doctor from Rinshin Medical Hall. When I went out yesterday, I saw this girl and recognized that her mother was a patient who had been treated in my medical hall before." "What are you crying for? I can't even hear you." "Speak clearly," the private advisor interrupted him impatiently. Yue shrunk his neck. No wonder they said not to come into the government office unless something happened. It was too scary. He could only take a deep breath. Although he was still pitiful, he did not dare to sob anymore. "I was kind enough to ask about her mother's condition. I didn't expect her to turn around and slander me. She said that I was a quack, and that not only did I not cure her mother's illness, but I also almost killed her mother. Heaven and earth, I've been a doctor in Yongning Prefecture for 20 years. Everyone has seen it. How could I harm her mother?" Slow down. Can't you see that I'm recording?" The private advisor interrupted him again impatiently. Yue wanted to cry. The people in the government office were too difficult to serve. He paused for a moment and could only say slowly, "I just rebutted. Who knew that she would hit me? I couldn't bully her. The mother and daughter might as well go back first. I didn't expect the medical center to catch fire at night. She must have gotten someone to do it." Chapter 291. Pressing closer, the private advisor finished recording the statement and turned to ask Gu Yundong, "What do you say?" Gu Yundong shrugged and said, "I've never left the house." "Even if you've never left the house, you can ask someone else to do it." Yue glared at her angrily. "Who?" "The beggars in the city. The waiter of Fulong Inn saw you go out after you returned with his own eyes and look for the beggars outside. He also saw you give them silver. If you didn't order them to set fire, what else could it be?" Yue snorted. The assistant took a note and said, "Bring the waiter of Fulong Inn to the hall." The waiter came over quickly and replied as if he was Yue, "I was far away at that time and didn't see if she was giving money, but when those beggars passed by me, I saw them happily biting the silver." Yue looked at Gu Yundong. "What else do you have to say?" "Oh, where are the beggars?" the private advisor also asked. He turned to look at the cold-faced constable. The latter shook his head, indicating that he had not found the beggars. Yue said angrily, "They must have been silenced by you." "Where's the evidence?" Gu Yundong asked again. The prefecture magistrate, who was slumped lazily in his seat, finally looked at her. The young lady was so young. Not only was she calm, but she was also pressing on step by step. He could not help but be interested. Yue, who was in the hall, was speechless. Gu Yundong, on the other hand, spoke with a smile. Since you have no evidence, shouldn't it be my turn to say a few words? Yue was about to object when the private advisor nodded. Speak. I have to explain Dr. Yes' words. Firstly, about Yue being a quack, I didn't say this. It was determined by the former Imperial Hospital's Imperial physician, Song Dajiang. I was lucky enough to meet Dr. Song. He saw that I was seeking treatment for my mother out of filial piety and took action to treat my mother. In the end, he told me a very bad result. Because Yue randomly treated my mother, the blood clot in my mother's brain spread and her life was in danger. It was Dr. Song who saved my mother. I was grateful to him and naturally hated Yue. Everyone was in an uproar when they heard that. The imperial physician said that? It couldn't be wrong. Even the prefecture magistrate looked up and nodded slightly. Imperial physician Song is indeed brilliant. These words were more effective than anything else. Yue immediately panicked. I didn't. Secondly, Gu Yundong interrupted him. You said that I hit you and your clinic caught fire. Later on, you said that I asked someone to set it on fire. But you have no witnesses and no physical evidence. How do I know that you didn't take the opportunity to frame me because you hated me for hitting you? In your eyes, I'm probably just a person with no background in my teens who can be bullied at will. Do you think that as long as I enter the government office, you'll be so afraid that I won't be able to speak and you can throw me into jail as you please? You can also vent your anger. How dare you? What do you think the government office is? The private advisor was talking to Yue. Yue was scared out of his wits. Damn it, who was the one who was so scared that he couldn't speak? Gu Yundong smiled. Thirdly, there's a third. However, the onlookers were excited. Listen, listen, listen. I like to listen to this girl. That's right. She's much clearer and more reasonable than that quack. Gu Yundong was satisfied. Very good. Everyone had already decided that he was a quack. Chapter 292, What you say makes more sense. Thirdly, Gu Yundong said faintly, the waiter at Fulongin said that I was in contact with the beggars, but he didn't see what I said to them. How can he conclude that I bribed them to do something bad? Gu Yundong had indeed bribed them, but she did not want them to set a fire. This would easily implicate others. She had no grudges with anyone else, so there was no reason for her to harm them. Therefore, she only asked those beggars to drag Yue out and break one of his hands. She wanted to see how he could treat people and kill them without a hand. Moreover, she asked them to attack today. After all, she had already left when she thought of her. Who knew that there was someone who hated Yue more than her? They even burned down the entire medical center. Everyone knows that my mother is sick. Imperial physician Song said that he still needs a medicine to completely heal my mother. It's just that the medicine is not easy to find. He needs time. My heart aches for my mother, so I naturally pray for that medicine to be found as soon as possible every day. Therefore, when I saw that there were beggars in the city, I suddenly thought that if I did more good deeds, I could accumulate some good karma for my mother and let her recover as soon as possible. It's just my filial piety. I didn't expect him to say that I set fire to kill people. The onlookers sighed when they heard that. That's right. This girl is so filial. It's not easy. That's right. If she wants to treat her mother, why would she set a fire to reduce her fortune? This quack is always thinking about how to harm people. He doesn't even let a little girl off. Isn't that so? Just because she hit him a few times in anger, tell me, how much strength can a young lady use to hit him? He actually wants to send her to jail. He's not human, he's a beast. Yue was furious. This brat was very strong. She had kicked him to the ground easily. He looked at the other people in the court. The advisor was putting down his pen and rubbing his sore wrist. Yue felt that this guy was being biased. Why didn't he stop this brat from saying so much? If the private advisor had known, he would have scolded him. How could his messy and unpleasant words compare to the organized and exciting speech? Gu Yundong was very calm. She did not even glance at Yue. She said to the private advisor, I'm done. The private advisor nodded. Yes, what you said makes a lot more sense than him. Yue was shocked. Sir, she's just quibbling. No noise in court. After saying that, the private advisor presented his record to the prefecture magistrate. The prefecture magistrate didn't say anything after reading it. He just nodded to show that he understood. The private advisor returned to his seat and said, "Since both sides are only making claims and there's no evidence, we can't confirm the case. We'll investigate this matter after we find the beggars at the entrance of the inn." Gu Yundong frowned. She still had to go to the Gu village. At this moment, there was a commotion at the door. The cold-faced constable went out to take a look and returned quickly. "Sir, there's someone outside who wants to complain." "Don't they know there's a case going on here?" The constable said, "The visitors claim that they're here for this case." This time, everyone was stunned. Yu Wei's face flashed with ecstasy. "It must be those beggars who came to testify." Gu Yundong glanced at him. Look at how happy he was. Soon 2 people came in. Chapter 293. Since I'm here, ill-accepted however, the 2 of them were dressed neatly and did not look like beggars. However, when Yue saw the 2 of them clearly, the smile on his face instantly froze. He even turned pale bit by bit, and a trace of a bad feeling flashed in his eyes. The 2 of them knelt down. "We are Gao Feng and Gao Yuan. Greetings, sir." "Who are you 2? Who are you suing?" "Lord, this commoner is Gao Feng, a citizen of Half Moon Village. This is my younger brother, Gao Yuan. We want to sue you Yue for disregarding human lives and causing my mother's death." As the 2 brothers spoke, they looked at Yue angrily. Yue hurriedly denied, "Nonsense, nonsense. I didn't." Gu Yundong silently moved to the side as if it had nothing to do with her. "You did." Gao Yuan became even more irritable. "Half a month ago, my mother was seriously ill. Eldest brother and I took her to Renshin Medical Hall. We originally wanted to look for Dr. Li, but Dr. Li was busy at that time and couldn't spare any time. Dr. Yu was free, so he took the initiative to come and treat my mother. Later, he prescribed medicine and asked us to go back. However, I didn't expect that after taking the medicine for 3 days, my mother never woke up." As the 2 brothers spoke, they began to cry. During the disaster, they did not go out, but their father was still gone. Before he died, he asked them to take good care of their mother. Now that their lives had finally improved, not long after, their mother had passed away. At that time, the 2 of us carried mother to Renshin Medical Hall. Yue refused to admit it and said that we didn't take good care of mother. He even said that we deliberately came to extort money and said that we didn't have evidence. I took out the prescription he prescribed and he tore it up. It's our fault for being stupid. We shouldn't have gone up to seek an explanation back then. We should have come to the government office to sue him." The assistant nodded and asked, "Even if the prescription is gone, there are still some dregs. Why didn't you go to the government office at that time?" The Gao brothers shook their heads and sobbed. "When we carried mother's corpse back, we realized that there was a thief in the house. Nothing was lost except the medicine dregs. It was Boss Gung of Renshin Medical Hall who secretly got someone to do it, but we don't have evidence. The village chief said that we can't sue them at all." The private advisor said, "But you don't have any evidence now. Why are you complaining?" "When we heard that Yue had come to harm others, we thought that even if we didn't have evidence, we had to stand up and let everyone know his true colors so that others wouldn't be harmed." When Gu Yundong heard that she was mentioned, she quickly straightened her body and said to them, "Gentlemen." Anyway, she could not do it. Yue was so angry that his hands trembled. He did not have any evidence on Gu Yundong's side, but what about these 2 people? They did not have any either. He could only snort coldly. "You're all talking nonsense. You can really turn black into white with your mouths. I think you're the helpers this girl found, right?" Gu Yundong blinked. "Honestly, I really don't know them." "Then they've taken a fancy to you. Why don't you take a look at your foxy appearance?" Gu Yundong's face darkened. F*CK, this shameless woman. Did she really think that she would not dare to hit him in court? She was secretly rolling up her sleeves when she heard the cold-faced constable say, "We've found those beggars." As he spoke, he glanced at Yue with a strange expression. Yue was very happy. He had finally found the beggars. Now he would see how this brat died. However, Gu Yundong was very calm. What was this saying? Since she was here, she would take things as they came. Chapter 294. Distorting the truth. A few beggars came, but everyone was surprised to find that they were actually dressed well. The assistant was also surprised. To be cautious, he called the waiter over. Come and identify them. Are they the beggars you've seen? The waiter didn't even need to look carefully to recognize them at a glance. He nodded to show that he was right. It was not the first day that these beggars stayed not far from the inn. They came almost every day and could not be chased away. The private advisor let him go down and asked the beggars, "Do you know this person?" He pointed at Gu Yundong. The beggars nodded. Yes, yes. One of them said, "This girl went to Fulongin yesterday. Later on, she saw that we were very hungry and had no food to eat, so she was kind enough to give us some silver fragments and asked us to buy some delicious food and clothes to block the cold. This girl is really a good person." That's right, that's right. She's a good person. We wanted to repay her, but she said no. She only said that she did it to accumulate good fortune for her mother. The clothes we're wearing are new. We had something hot this morning. Gu Yundong listened quietly and felt that it was very strange. She had never taught them to say such things, but their responses matched her previous statement. The more Yu Yue listened, the more he felt like his brain was going to explode. But what made him break down completely was yet to come. One of the beggars suddenly stammered and said hesitantly, "Actually, we saw how the fire started last night." Everyone was shocked. Even Yu Yue looked at that person in surprise. The others nodded. "We heard someone say that he wanted to burn the Rinshin Medical Hall down." "Who said that?" a crowd outside asked anxiously. "It's Dr. Yu." The few beggars pointed at Yu Yue in unison. Yu Yue was stunned. He looked at the people in front of him in shock. The prefecture magistrate finally straightened up slightly. "Tell me everything from the beginning." "Yes, sir. Yesterday we saw Dr. Yu talking to a man wearing a big hat that covered half of his face. He said that since Rinshin Medical Hall was already in decline, it was better to burn it down. He could use this fire to do something. He even gave that person a key to the medical hall. We didn't take it seriously at that time and left. In the end, Rinshin Medical Hall really caught fire. At that time, we were the ones who got others to quickly put out the fire. Actually, they were the ones who wanted to help Gu Yundong break Yu Yue's hand. They had gone to check beforehand, but they did not expect to encounter a fire. Someone outside the court said, "Yes, I can testify that a few beggars shouted and started a fire. I live next door, and they even helped put out the fire." These young men worked hard. After the fire was extinguished, they said that they were hungry before leaving. Yu Yue jumped up as if he had been struck by lightning. "You're lying. You're lying. What are you doing?" The cold-faced constable stepped forward and kicked his leg, causing him to kneel down. Then he cupped his fists and said, "Sir, the medical center did start burning from the inside." At this moment, Boss Gung, who had already been bandaged and carried over to listen to the case, pointed at Yu Yue with a furious expression. "It's actually you. I was wondering why you were so flustered when you ran back yesterday. You ran out as soon as the fire burned. Our Gung family has treated you well, but you actually did such a thing." Yu Yue hurriedly shook his head. "I didn't." However, the prefecture magistrate suddenly slapped the wooden stick. "Don't quibble. Now that there are witnesses and evidence, you were the one who set the fire in Rinshin Medical Hall. Men, take him to jail. As for the matter of him causing Mother Gao's death, it has yet to be confirmed. If it's true, well, sentence him accordingly." Everyone dismissed. With that he left. The private advisor and constable disappeared. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. Wasn't it so careless? Wasn't there still a witness who had set the fire? She walked out in a daze and held Madame Yang's hand as they left the government office. Then she saw her carriage parked not far away. She was stunned for a moment. The curtain of the carriage was lifted, revealing a face that she could not believe. Chapter 295. Shao Qingyuan is here. Before Gu Yundong could react, Madame Yang took a few steps forward in surprise. "Qingyuan, why are you here?" Shao Qingyuan got out of the carriage. He looked a little haggard and travel-worn. His dark circles were very thick. Gu Yundong almost thought that she had seen wrongly. She blinked hard. After a long time she asked, "When did you come?" "I entered the city early this morning," Shao Qingyuan said. Although he looked tired, the light in his eyes seemed to burn. "Get into the carriage first. Aren't we going to the Gu family's village? We can still rush to the county city if we leave now." Gu Yundong got into the carriage in a daze while Shao Qingyuan drove him away. After walking for a while, Gu Yundong suddenly stuck her head out and said, "Let's not go to the Gu village first." "Well, go tomorrow. Let's go back to the inn." Shao Qingyuan immediately turned the carriage around and drove towards Fulong Inn. Gu Yundong patted her head and asked, "Why did you come to Yongning Prefecture?" "After I received your letter, I heard that Yongning Prefecture wasn't peaceful, so I rushed over." "Don't worry, everything has been arranged at home. Nothing will go wrong." Gu Yundong did not know whether to laugh or cry. Looking at his thin back, her mood improved. "What about your horse?" "It's in the caravan." Gu Yundong nodded. "When did you arrive? Have you eaten breakfast? How many days have you not slept? Were those people arranged by you just now? How did you know I was here?" Shao Qingyuan was still in a daze. She seemed to be very concerned about him? Or was he thinking too much? Previously he was clearly determined, but now he was actually a little nervous. "Why aren't you saying anything?" Shao Qingyuan suddenly came back to his senses. His grip on the reins tightened slightly, and his voice subconsciously deepened. "I entered as soon as the city gate opened this morning. When I passed by the Renshin Medical Hall, the fire over there was put out. I originally planned to leave directly, but I heard someone in the crowd call out the words Gu Dajiang's daughter, so I listened. Hence, I heard that Yue planned to pin the blame on Gu Yundong. Coincidentally, he saw that the beggars were planning to leave secretly. His first reaction was that these people had done it. He raised his hand and arrested them. Shao Qingyuan had the means to interrogate them. These beggars were also instructed by Gu Yundong not to tell anyone. Hence, in order to clear the air, the beggar confessed the real murderer, the Gale brothers. Yes, they had indeed seen the Gale brothers set the place on fire. They had seen it when they went to check on the situation. Although they had participated in extinguishing the fire, they did not intend to stand up and identify the Gale brothers. Firstly, they had never thought of meddling in other people's business. Moreover, that Renshin Medical Hall was not a good thing to begin with. If it was burned, so be it. In any case, it did not burn to anyone else's house. Secondly, what if others asked why they went to Renshin Medical Hall if they identified them? Wouldn't that expose their original purpose? Shao Qingyuan got the two of them to look for the Gale brothers. The Gale brothers had never thought of letting others take the blame, let alone a little girl. It was a pity that they did not burn Yu and Geng to death. It was Shao Qingyuan who had asked them to go to the court, but they only said that their mother had been killed by Yue. Later on, he was the one who asked the beggars to testify that the fire was set by Yue. Of course, this was very related to the prefecture magistrate. When Shao Qingyuan left Yongfu village, he specially went to Qingyuan to ask about the officers who had taken office here. The prefecture magistrate was a little strange. As long as he was given a breakthrough, he wouldn't care if he had evidence. He would capture him first. As for evidence, he could take his time to find it, as long as the victim came Toju. Chapter 296, Fiance? Gu Yundong was speechless. The prefecture magistrate was neither good nor evil. She really could not understand what he was thinking. However, she was not in Yongning Prefecture now. It was hard to say if they would have any contact in the future. He did not care about it for now. The carriage quickly arrived at Fulong Inn. As soon as they got off, they saw the waiter who had testified in the court walk out angrily with a bag. The innkeeper was also furious. "Our inn can't afford you. The guests came to stay at our inn, so you should serve and take care of them. You shouldn't keep an eye on what they did and said. In the end, you even made wild guesses and told others. Do you think anyone will stay at our inn like this? Leave quickly." The waiter was a little unconvinced. "I went to the court to testify. How can I lie if the prefecture magistrate asked me a question? Do you dare not to say anything in front of the prefecture magistrate?" The shopkeeper sneered. "Of course you should tell the truth in court, But before you went to court, you had already sold this matter to Dr. Yu. You still have the cheek to ask me? Are you leaving or not? If you don't, they'll get someone to beat you out. The shopkeeper grew impatient and turned to call for the others. The waiter quickly grabbed his bag and ran away. When he came out and saw Gu Yundong standing there, he immediately glared at her and snorted. Qingyuan narrowed his eyes and suddenly glanced behind him. On the other side, the beggars who had been talking confidently in the court smiled silently at him. Gu Yundong asked the shopkeeper to get another room. The shopkeeper looked apologetic. I'm really sorry. Our inn didn't manage well. Miss, you want another room, right? I won't charge you for this room. Treat it as an apology, okay? Gu Yundong felt that the shopkeeper was a good person. She had originally wanted to grab her stuff and look for another inn. Now that the waiter had been chased away, there was no need. Qingyuan's room was next to hers. Gu Yundong knew that he was busy and had definitely not eaten breakfast. She had wanted to eat something in the hall, but after what had happened in the morning, many people were whispering to her. Gu Yundong asked the waiter to bring some food up. Qingyuan was indeed hungry. Now that Gu Yundong was sitting opposite him, his appetite improved. Unfortunately, the food was not as delicious as hers. After barely finishing 2 big bowls of rice, Qingyuan narrowed his eyes slightly. Gu Yundong saw that he seemed to have lost a lot of weight. His dark circles were also a little heavy. She did not know how long it had been since he had slept properly. Although he was riding a horse at full speed, the Xuanhe prefecture was even further away. He had only set off after receiving the letter and had even arrived here at the same time as her. It was likely that he often traveled overnight. Gu Yundong chased him to bed. It would not be too late to talk after he had slept well. Qingyuan got the waiter to bring hot water and took a comfortable shower. However, he could not fall asleep no matter what. After tossing and turning for more than an hour, he finally sat up, changed into clean clothes, and tidied herself up. Only then did she go out and hesitantly knock on Gu Yundong's door. Gu Yundong looked at him in surprise. You're not asleep? I can't sleep. You can't sleep with such dark circles under your eyes? I've never heard of you having insomnia before. Qingyuan looked uncomfortable. After a while, he said, I have something to ask you. What? I heard that you have a fiancé here, right? Huh? Gu Yundong's mind was filled with question marks. Fiancé? Why didn't she know? Chapter 297, Fiancé, Qingyuan? This was the first time Gu Yundong had heard of such a thing. However, this happened before she escaped, so she tried her best to recall it. She had no impression of it at all. How would Qingyuan know something that even she didn't know? She eyed him suspiciously, his face tight. Who told you I had a fiancé? Yunshu told me. That was why he had rushed here and caught up with her in Yongning Prefecture. He was afraid that she would not only bring Gu Dajiang back, but also a strange man. Gu Yundong was stunned. Did Yunshu say that? Where did that brat get such unreliable news? Gu Yundong glanced at Qingyuan and turned to ask Madame Yang, who was compiling a puzzle. Mother, have I been engaged before? Madame Yang looked up in confusion. Engaged? Dong Dong is engaged? Gu Yundong spread his hands at Qingyuan. I don't have a fiancé, and my mother doesn't have any impression of him. If it was decided by my father, he would definitely tell my mother and me. Qingyuan heaved a sigh of relief in his heart, but he remained calm on the surface. I understand. I might have misheard. I'll go back to my room to rest first. If you need anything, just call me. Yeah. Gu Yundong watched him walk out stiffly. When he heard the sound of the door opening and closing, he could not help but laugh. Dong Dong, what are you laughing at? Ah, fiancé, Qingyuan? Kuff. Gu Yundong choked on her own saliva. She looked at the shocked Madame Yang and quickly shook her head. No, mother, you're thinking too much. Come, let's solve the puzzle. After we finish this, you'll make another one later and draw our family of 5, okay? As expected, Madame Yang's attention was diverted. Thinking of the family of 5, she immediately nodded. Then I want to draw it. It's very big, so big. Gu Yundong nodded and sat beside her to play with her. However, Shao Qingyuan lay on the bed after returning to his room. He relaxed, smiled, and fell asleep in a second. Perhaps it was because he had not had a good rest for a long time. He only woke up when the sky turned dark. By the time he went downstairs, the inn's chefs had gone to bed. He rubbed his stomach and had no choice but to return to his room to take out the bag he carried. He found the hard pancake inside and took a difficult bite. She was taking her second bite when there was a knock on the door frame. He looked up and saw Yundong leaning against the open door with his arms crossed. "I'm hungry. They'll cook some supper. What do you want to eat?" Shao Qingyuan immediately put down the pancake. "Anything is fine." After a pause, he said, "Egg fried rice." That was simple. "Start the fire," she said, and was gone. Shao Qingyuan tidied his bag, closed the door, and followed Yundong downstairs. Shao Qingyuan was quite agile with the fire. He sat quietly beside the stove and listened to the sound of eggs being added to the pot. Neither of them spoke, but his gaze kept glancing at Yundong. For some reason, Shao Qingyuan felt that something was different when he saw her again. Although it was supper, Yundong only took a small bowl. The rest went into Shao Qingyuan's stomach. He naturally knew that she had deliberately cooked it for him. After staying at the inn for the night, the three of them packed their things early the next morning and left Yongning Prefecture for Jiangyu County. The Gu village was under Jiangyu County. Chapter 298. It's called Gale. Shao Qingyuan still went to the carriage and horse shop to bring back the horse. He had bought this horse before he came. It was specially chosen to be young, strong, and tolerant. It looked very energetic. Along the way, the horse had interacted with Shao Qingyuan, and the man and horse had actually developed feelings for each other. He even secretly gave the horse a name, Gale, which was similar to Wind Chaser. When Yundong heard this name, she was speechless. Why not Storm? After a night of rest in the carriage shop, the wind became energetic again. Yundong wanted to give it a try. She let Shao Qingyuan drive the carriage and got on the back of Gale. He ran for a long time before stopping. The three of them only arrived at Jiangyu County when the sky was about to turn dark. Jiangyu County was very quiet now, especially at this time. There were almost no people on the streets. That was true. In that disaster, Jiangyu County had suffered heavy damage and its population had decreased drastically. Although many people had returned, their vitality had decreased greatly and they could not recover for the time being. Yundong and the others found an inconspicuous inn to stay in. It was rare for a guest to come to this place. The waiter, who was originally lifeless, immediately perked up when he saw them and hurriedly invited them in. "Sir, are you passing by our Jiangyu County or are you here to look for your relatives? If there's anything I can help with, just tell me. Although our inn is small, I can guarantee that you'll be at home." "Yes, I can help you find anything." Yundong inquired about the situation in Jiangyu County. This county isn't very lively, and there aren't many people on the streets. I saw that most of the shops were closed early. I wanted to buy some food just now, but I didn't see many shops. Sigh. The waiter couldn't help but sigh. As he led their carriage inside, he said, "There's nothing we can do." When the disaster came, many people left. In addition, many people who didn't have food at that time were forced to enter the city to snatch things. The owners of the shops in the county were terrified. "Look, it's been a long time. The imperial court has also sent officers to help with the disaster, but isn't everyone used to it?" When it was dark, they couldn't help but close the shops. As if afraid of scaring the two of them, the waiter hurriedly said, "But don't worry, sir. Our place is stable now. Everyone has planted new food. After the hard days are over, it will get better and better. Don't think that these shops are closed early as if there's no one around. It's still lively during the day." "Is that so?" Yundong followed him into the inn and looked at the clean room. She was quite satisfied. When the waiter was about to leave, she asked casually, "By the way, I heard that before the disaster, there was a wonton restaurant called Xianxia restaurant in the county. Is this restaurant still open?" Xianxia restaurant was the restaurant where Dajiang used to be the accountant. The waiter was stunned. "Xianxia restaurant? There's a restaurant there that's still open, but it doesn't sell wontons." "Then I might have remembered wrongly." Yundong smiled and did not continue asking. She didn't plan to go to the Gu village directly, so she had to go to that thriving restaurant tomorrow to take a look. She didn't know if the boss had any news of Gu Dajiang. However, they did not expect to see a familiar person when they entered Xingxing restaurant the next day. It should be said that Gu Yundong found him familiar. That person was sitting at a table not far from the door, facing it. Chapter 299. Lost from Eldest Aunt. Gu Yundong did not recognize him at first. It was only when someone called his name that she took a few more glances at him. She tightened her grip slightly and asked Shao Qingyuan to bring her mother to sit by the window. She walked over and sat opposite that person. Someone suddenly sat down in front of him. That person raised his head slightly and was slightly stunned when he saw Gu Yundong's clothes. "You are the Jiang family's girl? Aren't you a little too young? Are you really 20 years old?" Gu Yundong frowned slightly. "You don't know me?" The man was surprised. "Do we know each other?" Gu Yundong took a deep breath and said, "My surname is Gu. My father is Gu Dajiang. Bien Mulan is my cousin. Cousin-in-law, do you remember?" That's right. The person in front of her was Bien Mulan's husband, Ding Jincheng. Ding Jincheng looked at her in shock. "You're that girl from the Gu family?" He looked like a completely different person. How was that possible? Of course, Ding Jincheng had seen Gu Yundong before, but at that time, Gu Yundong was short and small. She always lowered her head and was usually very busy. He was the son-in-law of the Bien family, and his mother-in-law didn't have a good relationship with the Gu family. She only visited her younger brother, Gu Dajiang, occasionally. Even his mother-in-law was like this, let alone him. In his memory, he had only accompanied Bien Mulan to visit his uncle 3 or 4 times. This sister-in-law of his uncle's family was from 2 years ago. Back then, she was even thinner and her clothes were tattered. At that time, his aunt had just become stupid, and Gu Dajiang's family had an especially difficult time. Now that he saw Gu Yundong again, he could not believe it even if he recognized her. "Sister Gu, you're still alive. That's great. You?" Gu Yundong did not want to talk about himself. She just wanted to confirm one thing. "Cousin-in-law, where's my cousin?" She did not say that she had encountered Bien Mulan's grave. She still had a trace of hope. However, reality was always cruel. At the mention of Bien Mulan, Ding Jincheng could not help but wipe his face fiercely. "Mulan is gone." Gu Yundong felt her throat tighten and she was thirsty. After a while, she heard her own calm voice. "Why is she gone? Where are the bones?" "She starved to death," Ding Jincheng said. "We were just a little bit away from reaching Qingyuan prefecture, but she couldn't make it. She just died in front of me. I found a mountain and buried her there." "What kind of mountain was it? How far was it from the Qingyuan prefecture? Was there any village nearby? What's written on the stone tablet you erected for her? What kind of grave was it?" Ding Jincheng answered them one by one. When Gu Yundong saw that all the details were the same as the grave she had seen back then, she was certain that it was indeed her cousin, Bien Mulan. She lowered her head slightly and felt her throat become even drier. "What about my aunt and the others?" Ding Jincheng shook his head. "I don't know." Gu Yundong's expression changed slightly. "What do you mean by you don't know? Didn't my eldest aunt's family leave Yongning Prefecture with you back then?" "At first, we were indeed together. However, a large group of refugees suddenly rushed out halfway and ran around in a panic. They said that there were bandits killing people behind. We panicked and ran with them. At that time, my parents were together. Mun, Yuanji and I were together. My father-in-law and mother-in-law were together. All of us got separated. Later, we found my parents, but we couldn't find my in-laws no matter what. We don't know their whereabouts." Gu Yundong frowned deeply. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something. "Where is Yuanji?" Bien Yuanji was the youngest son of her eldest aunt. Ding Jincheng suddenly felt a little guilty and avoided eye contact. Chapter 300. Blind Date. Gu Yundong had a bad feeling. She stood up abruptly. "Where is he?" Not far away, Shao Qingyuan had been paying attention to this side. Seeing that she was angry, he quickly comforted Madame Yang and asked her to sit down and eat something before striding to her side. "What is it?" As he spoke, his sharp gaze landed on Ding Jincheng. He wasn't the only one. Everyone else in the restaurant was staring at their table. Fortunately, Xingxing restaurant was not big, and there were only a few people inside. Ding Jincheng was already frightened by Gu Yundong's sudden anger. Now that he saw Shao Qingyuan again, he could not help but shiver. He hurriedly explained, "He's fine. Before Milan died, she asked me to take care of Yuanji. I brought him back. He's at the old Gu family now." The Gu family? He actually sent Bien Yuanji to old Gus' house. Damn it, she knew too well what kind of people old Gu and Madame Zhao were. Her aunt and uncle were missing. It would be strange if they could take good care of Bien Yuanji. Plus, Gu Dajiang was around. Thinking of this, she hurriedly asked Gu Dajiang if he was back. At this moment, a middle-aged woman walked over from afar. She was holding a young woman in her hand. The two of them were talking as they walked over. "Jincheng, have you ordered food?" "You and I." Before she could finish speaking, she looked up and saw Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan standing beside her. The middle-aged woman was slightly stunned. She sized up the two of them and suddenly smiled. "Are you friends with my Jincheng?" Before Gu Yundong could speak, she heard Ding Jincheng deny it anxiously. "No, mother. They were just asking me about something." Ding Jincheng's mother, Madam Hu, smiled and greeted them. "What's the matter? Ask me. I know everything about the surrounding villages." "No need. I'm done asking." Gu Yundong was in a bad mood and brought Shao Qingyuan back to her table. Before Shao Qingyuan left, he glanced at Ding Jincheng coldly. The latter did not even dare to look back. He could only smile dryly and sit down. There was still a little sweat on his forehead. Madame Hu also sat down with the girl beside her. She smiled and said, "Look at our Jincheng. He's already nervous and is still sweating." Miss Jiang looked at Ding Jincheng a few more times, lowered her head slightly and said softly, "Brother Ding is quite good. He's just a blockhead. He doesn't know how to speak." Madame Hu pretended to reprimand him, but she kicked him. At this moment, Ding Jincheng did not dare to speak. Although he did not turn around, he could feel the gaze behind him stabbing his back. Such a scene was not good to begin with, and even less so when Mulan's family bumped into it. Madame Hu called him a few more times. "Jincheng, Jincheng, what's wrong? I called you a few times, but you didn't respond. Are you feeling unwell?" Ding Jincheng shook his head violently and said to the girl opposite him, "Miss Jiang, I'm sorry. I don't want to remarry now. My wife just passed away half a year ago." Madame Hu wished she could break his foot and seal his mouth. The smile on Miss Jiang's face froze and instantly collapsed. She said coldly, "Did you misunderstand something? I just happened to bump into Auntie today. She said that the dishes in this restaurant are good, so I came over to take a look. But now it seems that this restaurant is too small. I'm uncomfortable. You guys eat by yourselves. I'll leave first." With that, she stood up and left. "Hey," Madame Hu wanted to call her, but when she saw that everyone in the restaurant was looking at them, she immediately shut up. Then, she suddenly turned her head and glared at Ding Jincheng. Chapter 301. Lacking women so badly, what's wrong with you? What did I tell you? Madame Hu was furious. She reached out and pinched his arm fiercely. She said hatefully, "Do you know how much effort I spent to find such a good girl for you? How much effort did I spend to persuade Miss Jiang to agree to come and take a look?" Ding Jincheng's face flushed red. "Mother, stop talking. Let's go." He stood up and did not even bother to eat. He wanted to pull Madame Hu away. Madame Hu flung his hand away. "Why shouldn't I say anything? You refuse to admit that you're a blockhead. Bien Mulan has been dead for more than half a year, but you still..." Since Ding Jincheng couldn't pull her away, he simply turned around and left. He felt that when Gu Yundong heard his mother mention Bien Mulan, she almost rushed over to beat him up. Madame Hu was stunned. "Hey, where are you going? Stop right there. Ding Jincheng, you're so capable. You angered Miss Jiang away. Are you trying to anger me to death?" "Mother, I've already said that I don't plan to get married now." After walking out of the restaurant for quite a distance, Ding Jincheng finally dared to speak softly. However, what she said made Madame Hu even angrier. "You still don't plan to get married? You're really going to anger me to death. You're already 21 years old, but you don't even have a child now. Do you want our Ding family to have no descendants? How great is Miss Jiang? She's 2 years younger than you and is from the county city. She only has one father at home. In the future, when you get married, everything in her family will be yours. Let me tell you, Ding Jincheng. You've missed Miss Jiang. You'll be a bachelor for the rest of your life. Think about it. How many people from Yongning Prefecture are dead this time, especially girls? There aren't many who came back safely, and even if there are, they've long been chosen by others. Although Miss Jiang has also been married and widowed, she's still young and beautiful. Didn't you see what kind of women old Madame Chao introduced to you 2 days ago? They were 25 or 26 years old and even had children. It simply angered me to death. It wasn't easy for me to persuade Miss Jiang to meet you. When she saw you, she said that you're quite good. What exactly do you want? Ding Jincheng walked very quickly. He really did not want to hear her continue to nag. Madam who stepped forward and slapped him hard on the back. Did you hear that? You want to anger me to death? You want to anger me to death? Stop right there. If you continue forward, believe it or not, I'll bang my head against the wall and die here. Ding Jincheng suddenly stopped in his tracks and walked back helplessly. Mother, don't be like this. I already said, I don't care. You have to promise me today that you'll come with me to find Miss Jiang and apologize properly. Otherwise, I'll kill myself in front of you. Hey, mother, Ding Jincheng sighed. Seeing that Madam who refused to give in, he could only agree. All right, I'll go with you. Only then did Madam who become happy. However, when the two of them arrived at the Jiang family, they were told that there was no one in the Jiang family. Madam who could only leave resentfully, but she was still unwilling. She turned around and glared at him. Come again tomorrow and have a good talk with Miss Jiang. Ding Jincheng didn't want to come, but seeing that her mother looked like she was going to cry on the streets, he could only nod his head haphazardly. Meanwhile, in Xingxing restaurant, Gu Yundong and the other two did not look too good as they watched Ding Jincheng and his mother leave. Gu Yundong gulped down half a pot of water before calming down slightly. It's only been half a year, and you're already so badly in need of a woman? My cousin hasn't even turned cold yet, and you're immediately looking for another one. And my cousin. Chapter 302, For People. As Gu Yundong spoke, she took another sip of water. Shao Qingyuan reached out to pat her back, but Madame Yang beat him to it. Dong dong, don't be angry, don't be angry. Gu Yundong rubbed her temples. I'm not saying that he can't find another one. Ding Jincheng is only in his early 20s. But he doesn't have to be in such a hurry, right? It was a waste for my cousin to marry him. There was anger in her heart for Bien Mulan, who had lost her life because of her beauty, and also for her eldest aunt, whose whereabouts were still unknown. And Yuanji, he actually sent him to the Gu family. Gu Yundong originally did not want to go to the Gu family. She only wanted to find out Gu Dajiang's whereabouts. If he was not in the Gu village, she would secretly get someone to teach the Gu family a lesson. She did not even need to meet them. But things were different. She couldn't let Bien Yuanji stay in the Gu family. Her eldest aunt and uncle-in-law were dead, and her cousin had passed away. Bien Yuanji might be the last member of the Bien family. Among Gu Dajiang's many siblings, Gu Yundong only acknowledged his eldest aunt and youngest uncle as family, so it was impossible for her to ignore her eldest aunt's son. Shao Qingyuan supported her no matter what she did. From the looks of it, we have to get someone to go to Gu village to inquire about the situation and see if Uncle Gu has returned. Gu Yundong nodded. At this moment, the owner of Xingxing restaurant returned. He actually recognized Madame Yang and immediately came over when he saw her. Knowing that Gu Yundong was Gu Dajiang's daughter, he shook his head slightly and sighed. Your father and I are considered friends. I even went to the Gu village to ask before the new year. I thought that if he came back, he would come to my restaurant to be an accountant. Your father is serious and knowledgeable. I'm used to hiring him. Now that business is slowly improving, it's much easier for me if I could get his help. What a pity, he shook his head. Your grandparents actually said that your entire family died outside. I found it strange. Why is it so coincidental? Everyone else is fine, but none of your family survived. I didn't expect to see you and your mother now. I think your father must still be alive. He might be looking for you too. Yes, I also believe that he's still alive. Gu Yundong thanked him before leaving with Madame Yang and Shao Qingyuan. When they returned to the inn, Gu Yundong could tell that Madame Yang was in low spirits. She quickly comforted her. Mother, can we go home after we bring Yuanji out? Perhaps father has already found our house. Think about it, we're looking for father, and father must be looking for us too. We might have missed him, right? Madame Yang's mood improved a lot when she heard that. She nodded slightly. I miss Ashu and Kiki too. I'll go and solve the puzzles. She entered the house, but Gu Yundong was thinking about how to get Yuanji to come over. Let's find someone to inquire about the situation in Gu village first, Shao Qingyuan said. Gu Yundong agreed. But who should we ask? Shao Qingyuan glanced at the door. Gu Yundong was stunned and followed his gaze. The next moment, her eyes widened. For people came in one after another. When they saw him, they immediately smiled brightly and rushed over. Brother Shao, we took the mule cart here. It's just that the mule cart was especially slow and kept pooping. When it sees any grass, it insists on eating it. The four of us together can't pull it back. Look, we're late. Hee, don't take offense. Don't take offense. Chapter 303. Entering Gu village. Shao Qingyuan glanced at them. Yes, they were all wearing new clothes and their hair was glossy. It was just that the smile on their faces was really too flattering. It's not too late. As he spoke, he turned to look at Gu Yundong. What do you think about letting them inquire? Gu Yundong was still a little surprised. Why are they here? These four people were the beggars who had previously helped them lie in the prefectural city. I don't think I know anyone here. We need someone to help us look for Uncle Gu. These people are quite reliable, so I might as well let them come together. It was only after Gu Yundong left Yongfu village that Shao Qingyuan suddenly realized that he needed to nurture reliable people. Otherwise, the next time she went somewhere else, he might still not be able to follow her. Although he had met these four people in the prefectural city of Yongning Prefecture, they were not bad. Back then, they had promised Gu Yundong to find trouble with Yue. Later, they had been caught by him, but no matter how hard he tried to interrogate them, they never gave Gu Yundong away. They even knew how to divert attention and simply told the authorities about the Gao brothers. The four of them were not very old, about 12 or 13 years old. They were all very thin. One of them was the tallest. He looked like their boss, called Ah Mao. Yes, the four of them were called Ah Mao, Ah Shu, Ah Go, and Ah Zhu. When Gu Yundong heard the names for the first time, she felt thunderstruck. Did they gather all the animals in the house? Maybe they should look for other animals if they had brothers. Ah Mao smiled and patted his chest at Gu Yundong. Don't worry, Mississippi. I promise we'll find out anything you want to know. Although we're all in the prefectural city, Ah Shu used to live in Jiangyu County. He's very familiar with this place. Ah Shu immediately nodded. Gu Yundong looked at Shao Qingyuan and agreed after some thought. Do you know about the Gu village? I know. Ah Shu said, I have a distant relative who married into the Gu village. Most of the people in that village have the surname Gu. The head of the Gu clan is not a good person. Oh, that was exactly what Gu Yundong was thinking. Wasn't that Gu family's patriarch a piece of trash? All right, then help me find out more about the Gu Chuanzong family. Gu Yundong told them the details. The few of them immediately nodded and expressed that they wanted to set off without even drinking water. It was still early, and Gu village was not far from here. It was not too late to ask around. In the end, it was Ah Mao who brought Ah Shu there. The two of them could take care of each other. Shao Qingyuan sent them out and gave them a few taels of silver. He said, other than asking about the Gu Chuanzong family, ask about the Gu family's patriarch too. He had once heard Gu Yunshu talk about what the Gu family's patriarch had done to Gu Dajiang. If not for him, Gu Dajiang's family would have been independent long ago, and Gu Yundong would not have suffered for so many years. Ah Mao agreed and left with the money with a smile. The two of them were dressed cleanly and neatly. They drove the mule cart away. Fortunately, they were already familiar with driving. Otherwise, it would have wasted too much time. When the mule cart arrived at Gu village, someone saw it immediately. Shu asked him about the location of his distant relative. This relative was the daughter of his aunt's family and could be considered his cousin. She was not very close to him and was even a little cold. Back then, when something happened to Shu's family, he went to look for her aunt and asked her to lend some money. At that time, it was this cousin who came out and arrogantly said that her family did not have money, humiliating him fiercely. Shu felt that although he had yet to make a name for himself, he could still use his clothes to intimidate others. Unexpectedly, as soon as the mule cart entered the village, it almost bumped into someone. Chapter 304. A child like a scared bird. Mao cursed the mule and jumped out of the cart. The person who fell to the ground was a child. He didn't look very old and was carrying a bundle of firewood on his back. It was a little heavy. At this moment he fell to the ground with the firewood. Actually, the mule cart did not hit him, but he was frightened. Coupled with the firewood, he fell to the ground and could not get up for a long time. Cat T frowned and lifted him up. "Are you okay?" The child shook his head. Seeing that he was frowning unhappily, he quickly hid his hand that had been scratched by the stone. "It's okay. I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry. Don't hit me. I'll be very careful when I walk next time, really." Mao was dumbfounded. Was he that scary? Alright. I'm not going to hit you. Be careful when you walk. Of course, he had also seen the kid's hidden hand. Having been on the streets for a long time, he still had this bit of discernment. However, this child was like a frightened bird, looking like he wanted to leave quickly. He could only pretend not to see it and let him leave. The child struggled to carry the firewood on his back and did not dare to look back. He staggered in his tattered shoes as if he would fall at any moment. Shu also got out of the cart. He looked at the child and said, "That child is carrying such heavy firewood on his back? What are his family members thinking? Maybe his family is poor, or his family doesn't treat him well." Mao shook his head. "Let's go." He was a beggar. Even his meals were not guaranteed. How could he have extra sympathy for others? There were not many people in Gu village now. Shu asked about his cousin's husband along the way. When she saw Shu, the cousin was stunned. However, she was quickly attracted by his clothes and the mule cart. Seeing that Shu looked rich, she immediately smiled and invited him in. "I haven't seen you in a long time. Where have you been? Are you rich now?" Shu raised his chin slightly. "I went to the prefectural city and didn't achieve anything. I just came back and planned to find a place to settle down. You know that my village doesn't get along with me. I heard that Gu village is not bad, so I came over to ask." "That's right. There are no good people in your village. When your family was in trouble back then, they all hit you when you were down. It's better if you don't go. Our Gu village is not bad. If you want to settle down here, I am here too. I can take care of you. You're young. When you need to get married later, my cousin can help you find a good girl." How could this good-for-nothing afford a mule cart, wear good clothes, walk with the wind, and speak with confidence? Back then, Shu was not like this at all. Shu nodded. "Then do we have to look for the chief of Gu village? Where is his house? Will he agree to let me settle down?" "Yes, why not? He'll be very happy." Because of this disaster, Gu village had lost many people, and there were only few in the neighboring village. Now, the two villages had become one. Actually, there were many outsiders in Gu village, and now the Gu family took up at most half of the village. Shu let his cousin lead the way. He and Mao went straight to the chief's house. After Shu went in, Mao said impatiently, "I'm going out for a walk. It's stuffy here." "All right, go ahead." After Mao left, he wandered around the village for a while and found out about Gu Chuanzong's house. He stood at the entrance of the courtyard and glanced inside, but he did not expect to meet the eyes of the child who had almost bumped into him just now. Chapter 305. Old Gus Sigh. The child was stunned when he saw him. Terror flashed across his face as he hurriedly ran out. I really didn't mean to bump your carriage. I'm sorry. Don't be angry." Mao was stunned for a moment. He quickly pulled him behind a haystack and asked him with a frown, "Are you from Gu Chuanzong's family?" The child's face turned pale. "Don't tell my grandpa. I can apologize." I can apologize. Wait, I'm not here to settle scores with you. Don't be nervous, don't be afraid. A bad feeling flashed across Mao's heart. You call Gu Chuanzong grandpa. You're his grandson. What's your name? The kid took a step back and shook his head, refusing to say. Mao wanted to ask something, but a sharp voice suddenly came from the courtyard. Bien tu, where did you go? Didn't I ask you to wash your clothes? Where are you? Bien tu? Bien. The guess in Mao's heart was 70 to 80% confirmed, but the child took the opportunity when he was not paying attention to run away. Second aunt, I'll go wash the clothes right away. Right away? Why are you so useless? You're eating and drinking for free in our house. You don't even know how to do some work. I told you to wash them 2 hours ago. You're lazy, right? You're not allowed to eat tonight, do you hear me? The child lowered his head slightly and rubbed his small hands together. However, the woman sneered and pulled his arm fiercely. What are you doing? You deliberately showed it to me. Do you want to say that your hand is injured? The child looked up and shook his head quickly. Then why are you crying? Smile for me. The child hurriedly opened his mouth and squeezed out a smile. His small hands were behind his back, and he even chuckled twice to show that he was smiling. The woman was disgusted. Your smile is so ugly. Hurry up and get to work. You still have to feed the pigs after washing the clothes, little bastard. After saying that, she pinched him hard again. The child staggered and wanted to cry, but when he thought of the woman's words, he did not dare to. He turned around and obediently went to carry the basket of clothes. The basket was not big, but there were many clothes inside, including women's clothes. The child wanted to put it on the ground and pull it, but he was afraid that it would break the basket, so he could only take out half of the clothes and wash the rest later. Mao clenched his fists tightly. He wanted to rush to the Gu family and beat that damn woman to death. What about Gu Chuanzong? Wasn't that child his grandson? Didn't he know that his grandson was being bullied? Of course, Gu Chuanzong knew. He was in the room at this moment. As he helped Madame Zhao pick up the beans, he sighed. Madame Zhao snorted. But, do you feel sorry for her? If you do, tell your second daughter-in-law not to scold her. Sigh. Dr. Gu sighed again. Forget it. It's his bad luck. He has no parents. Even his sister is gone, and his brother-in-law's family doesn't want him. Since we're raising him, we can't let him do nothing. I know that this second daughter-in-law is angry. Her Xianxia has been sold, and we don't know where she is now. In the end, our family is raising an outsider now. She definitely won't be happy. He won't lose anything even if she scolds him. That's right. Isn't there a saying about people who live under someone else's roof? It's already good enough that we're providing for him. As long as second daughter-in-law doesn't make a fuss, making the entire family unable to live in peace, it's fine even if Bien Tu gets scolded. Old Gu nodded, shook his head, and continued to pick up the beans. Mao, who was outside, followed the child to the river. He wanted to tell him to stop washing. Chapter 306. Waiting for your sister, however, the child was terrified the moment he saw him. He trembled and almost fell into the river. Mao could only stop and say to him, "Don't worry, your sister will take you away soon." With that, he turned around and left. He had to quickly help Miss Gu find out what had happened and return to Jiangyu County. Miss Gu and Brother Shao were both capable people. They would definitely be able to take this child away. Bien Yuanji was startled. When he heard the word sister, he thought of Bien Mulan. He remembered that she was still worried about him before she died and told him to live well and reunite with his parents. However, when would he be able to find his parents? He was too tired and had to do many things every day. Second aunt hit him and his cousins also pinched him. He did not have dinner tonight. Oh, that's not right. He didn't seem to have eaten lunch either. He was so hungry now. Bien Yunji blinked his eyes, cupped his hands and drank 2 mouthfuls of river water. After feeling that his stomach was no longer empty and uncomfortable, he squatted down and started to wash his clothes. On the other side, Mao had already quickly walked downstream. There were also a few women washing clothes there. He purposely pointed at Bien Yuanji and asked a few questions. These people loved to gossip. There were some things that Cat learned clearly without even asking. When he had heard enough, He hurried over to check on Bien Yuanji. He happened to see the child holding his stomach and looking at the river with a conflicted expression. After a while, the child squatted down and took 2 sips. When he felt a little better, he smiled. Mao recalled that when he was a beggar, he also had nothing to eat and could only drink some water to fill his stomach. That feeling was too uncomfortable. However, at least he did not have to work. If he was too hungry, he would lie in the dilapidated temple to conserve his strength. Seeing that the child had drunk 2 more mouthfuls of river water, he quickly reached out to search his body. He finally found half a steamed bun. He had bought it on the way here. He was used to being a beggar, so he couldn't bear to throw it away even if he had not finished it. He quickly handed the steamed bun to Bien Yunji, who was stunned for a second and almost fell into the water again. Mao quickly supported him and pulled him to sit on a rock at the side. "Eat here." After stuffing the steamed bun into Bien Yuanzi's hands, Mao went to wash his clothes. Bien Yuanji was startled. He wanted to stop him, but when he saw the steamed bun in his hand, he couldn't help but gulp. He looked at Cat again, then at the steamed bun. After a few times, he finally lowered his head and took a bite. After he finished eating, Mao finished washing most of the clothes. He rubbed the dirty parts and soaked the lingeries in the water. Anyway, it was impossible to tell if he had washed them or not. "Let's go, I'll send you back." "Don't worry, I'll just walk to the door. I won't go in." Mao smiled at him. His smile was very funny, and Bien Yuanji lowered his guard. After sending him to the Gu family's door, Mao left. When he returned to the village chief's house, he happened to see Shu walking out with a gloomy expression. He scolded the village chief loudly, "Damn it, I only want to settle down and you charge me so much money. Why don't you rob me? It's not like I only have a place like your Gu village to choose from. Do you really think this place is in high demand? Some old fart is already so old, yet he's still so greedy. I want settle down here." After saying that, he ignored the cries behind him. When he saw Mao come over, he gave him a look and the 2 of them left. Shu sat on the mule cart and said excitedly, "You don't know, but this Chief Gu is really a talent. Do you know what he did?" Chapter 307. Took a concubine. Shu tried to keep him in suspense, but after a long time, Mao didn't say anything. He couldn't help but turn around. Only then did he realize that Mao's expression was dark. No one knew what he was thinking. As they knew each other well, Shu quickly guessed something. He nudged him and asked softly, "What's wrong? Didn't you go to inquire about the Gu family? It didn't go well? Let's talk about it when we get back." Mao shook his head and shook the reins violently. The mule cart immediately sped up. The 2 of them entered Jiangyu County before the city gate closed. When they went to the inn where Gu Yundong was, they saw that she and Shao Qingyuan were still waiting. The few of them were talking in Shao Qingyuan's room. Madame Yang was also there, but she was sitting alone in the corner, completing a puzzle. Just now, Ago watched her interestedly and asked her a few questions, making Madame Yang extremely happy. She taught him how to solve puzzles like she was teaching a child. Shu was the first to speak. "I pretended to go to Gu village to settle down and went to Chief Gus' house. Good Lord, that old man is black-hearted. He actually said that it's not easy to settle down with so many people in Gu village. He asked me for 10 taels of silver to smooth things over. Later on, he said that an acre of homestead costs 10 taels of silver, and so does the wasteland. Does he think I'm stupid? The entire Yongning prefecture is short of people now. He should be paying me money for me to settle down. He's so shameless." Speaking of this, he was still a little angry. Although he had pretended to be dissatisfied and left in the end, when he really chatted with that Gu person, his dissatisfaction had reached its peak. This shameless thing. By the way, that old man also escaped and has just returned. Although he suffered a little this time, he's in good spirits. Shu calmed down and became mysterious again. He said with a hint of gossip, "This old man is old but still strong. He actually brought a woman back and took that woman as his concubine." Gu Yundong choked on his tea. Shao Qingyuan quickly patted her back. Cat and the others looked at their actions and lowered their heads in tacit understanding. Gu Yundong wiped his mouth and asked in disbelief, "Concubine? Gu Gang is 50 years old, right? He was already 50 years old. Many people who were 32 or 33 years old could already be grandfathers now. He could be a great-grandfather at 50 years old. He's exactly 50 this year. Shu said, that woman is only 19 years old. I heard that she lost her parents on the way to escape. She almost died alone by the roadside. At that time, it was Gu Gang's 16-year-old eldest grandson who took a fancy to her and brought her along. In the end, Gu Gang intercepted her. However, he promised to find a better one for his eldest grandson, so his grandson didn't make a fuss. On the other hand, his wife is cursing at home every day. Gu Yundong was full of admiration for Gu Gang. She knew that this person was a selfish person who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. She did not expect him to be so shameless. As Shu spoke, he shook his head. But I don't think that Concubine likes Gu Gang at all. There's even a hint of disgust in her eyes. But she's also a scheming person. When I was in the Gu family, she caused trouble for Gu Gang twice. The Gu family couldn't tell. If not for the fact that he was knowledgeable and had met many two-faced fellows on the streets, coupled with the fact that he was an outsider, he would not have been able to tell. Gu Yundong knew that a 19-year-old young lady would not be interested in a 50-year-old man. What did she want from him? He had no money, no face, and no good temper. He was just a useless old thing. She looked at Mao. What about the Gu family? Chapter 308. Remembered by the county magistrate, Mao pursed his lips and looked at her hesitantly. After a while, he said, I saw Bian Yuan is having a hard time. Gu Yundong took a sip of water. Tell me. I'm mentally prepared. She knew very well what the Gu family was like. Mao told her everything about Bian Yuanji whom he had met when he entered the village and what the two of them had said. He told her about the kid's fear and his jobs in the Gu family. Gu Yundong was not the only one who was livid. Shu, Go, and Zhu were equally indignant. Although they had lived a hard life and were used to seeing the fickleness of human nature, that was because they had no relatives or friends. When their parents and grandparents were still alive, even if they did not treat them well, they would not be so mean. Moreover, they still had brothers to take care of each other now. Gu Yundong exhaled softly and tightened her grip on the cup. Zhu stood up. Why don't we just sneak into Gu village and steal him? That's right. The Gu family doesn't care about him anyway. That kid's been through a lot there. These people are no good. Only Mao sat there and didn't speak. Shao Qingyuan glanced at him and asked, why did the Gu family take him in back then? As soon as he said this, everyone was stunned. That's right. Since the Gu family disliked this child so much, why did they accept him after Ding Jincheng gave him to them? Bian Mulan was entrusted to the Ding family. Mao then said, the Gu family really didn't want to take him in. At that time, it was Ding Jincheng's parents who abandoned the child at the entrance of the Gu family. Old Gu didn't even look at him. It was so cold at that time. Bian Yuanji froze at the door for the entire night. Someone in the Gu village couldn't stand it anymore and brought him home to drink hot water. However, it was impossible for them to take in the child. At that time, it was difficult for anyone. Fortunately, the newly appointed county magistrate of Jiangyu County happened to travel incognito and went to various villages to learn about the people's livelihood. The county magistrate bumped into Bian Yuanji, whose face had turned red from the cold. He thought that Gu village was too difficult, so he asked a few more questions and finally understood the situation. The county magistrate got angry at that moment. Many people died in Yongning Prefecture because of the famine. This was really a time to develop manpower. The new emperor encouraged widows to remarry and have more children. It was not easy for Gu village to have a child who survived the disaster. He had blood family and was close to his maternal grandfather's family, but they refused to take him in and watched him freeze to death. He called the Gu family and the Ding family over. After repeated questioning and weighing, he finally asked the Gu family to take in this child. Therefore, Bian Yuanji was remembered by the county magistrate. If he suddenly disappeared, both the Gu family and the other people in the Gu village would be worried about being punished by the county magistrate. Who knew how big the matter would be? Moreover, Bian Yuanzi's household registration had already fallen into the Gu family. If he was taken away just like that, he would become an unregistered person and it would be very troublesome in the future. If they wanted to bring him out, they had to start from other sources. When Shu and the others heard this, they were a little dejected. Was it so difficult? Why don't we give some money to those people from the Gu family? Mao slapped him. What bad idea did you come up with? It's obvious that that family is greedy. They might not even give him to you even if you offer the money. Then what do we do? Shao Qingyuan looked at Gu Yundong, who had been silent. Do you have an idea? Chapter 309. Just get him back righteously. Gu Yundong was indeed thinking. We can't steal him. We can't use money. Then we might as well get him back fair and square. Mao and the other three's eyes lit up. How? Get someone to ask the Gu family for him. Who? Gu Yundong smiled. Ding Junsheng. The few of them looked at each other, and their eyes suddenly lit up. Yes, the Ding family didn't want the child back then. What if the Ding family took the child back? The Gu family was afraid that the county magistrate would punish them, but the child would be raised by the Ding family. When the county magistrate remembered and asked them, they would be able to explain. It's just that Ding Junsheng might not agree, right? Shao Qingyuan clenched his fists. Just beat him up. Mao and the other three shuddered in unison. When they thought of how Shao Qingyuan had interrogated them back then, they immediately felt that this was nothing. Ding Junsheng would definitely agree. It's late today. Well, look for him at the Ding residence tomorrow. Gu Yundong stood up. All right, rest. The four of them left the room one after another and returned to their rooms. Gu Yundong saw that Madame Yang had finished piecing together the puzzle and was just sitting there alone, thinking about something. She immediately walked over and asked softly, Mother, what's wrong? I'm a little familiar with this name. However, she couldn't remember him even after thinking for a long time. Gu Yundong smiled and put the things away for her before leading her away. As they walked, she asked, Mother, do you still remember eldest aunt? Feng. Older Aunt Gus' original name was Gu Dafeng, very similar to Gu Dajiang and Gu Da's names. It could be seen how randomly old Gu gave them names back then. Yes, Yuan is the youngest son of eldest aunt. Madame Yang's eyes widened. I remember. Actually, she had also heard Yuan Ji's space name yesterday, but her attention had been on Gu Dajiang and she hadn't thought about it carefully. Gu Yundong brought her back to her room, but she could not fall asleep on the bed. In the middle of the night, she suddenly heard a soft knock on the door. She looked at Madame Yang and sat up. When she opened the door, she saw Shao Qingyuan standing outside. I'll go to Gu village tomorrow morning, Shao Qingyuan said. Gu Yundong looked down and suddenly smiled. You've thought of that too? Okay. Shao Qingyuan's heart suddenly raced when he saw her like this. How could he be so smart? He already knew what he was going to do before she even said anything. Was this feeling like what others said, that their hearts were connected? Actually, ever since the two of them met again in Yongning Prefecture, even though they didn't say anything in detail, their way of interacting had changed slightly. Shao Qingyuan could feel the change in her attitude, and this change made his eyes burn more and more. Do you have any money on you? Gu Yundong asked, as if she was about to give him banknotes. If that woman is not easy to deal with, then forget it. I don't care about her. I know. I have enough money. Don't worry. He would take care of it. After all, not only did he have to ask old Gu for Bien Yuanji, but he also had to teach Gu Gang a lesson. After saying that, the two of them went to sleep respectively. The next morning, Shao Qingyuan left the inn. When Cat and the others arrived, only Gu Yundong was accompanying Madame Yang for breakfast. The four of them quickly finished their porridge and said to Gu Yundong, Miss, the four of us will accompany you. No need. Gu Yundong peeled an orange for Madame Yang, wiped her hands and said, Dog, pig, Tigyi accompany me. You two went to the Gu village yesterday. Rest in the inn today and help me take care of my mother. The four of them immediately agreed. Gu Yundong packed her things and left the inn. However, she did not expect to see Ding Junsheng not long after she left the house. Chapter 310:1 Won't break your leg, alright. There was no need to go to his village to look for him now. Gu Yundong led Go and Ding Junsheng towards Ding Junsheng. Ding Junsheng had listened to Madame Hu and came to apologize to Miss Jiang. For this, he had brought an extra 100 copper coins. When he passed by the pastry shop, he would buy her some sweets. Madame Hu originally wanted to follow them, but unfortunately, she had a stomachache when she woke up in the morning and didn't even leave the house. However, at this moment, Ding Junsheng was a little hesitant. Miss Jiang was indeed not bad. She was good-looking and from the county city. Although her family was not very rich, she was still much better than the woman Aunt Chow had set him up with. However, he still missed Bien Mulan. After all, they had been husband and wife for 4 years, and Mulan was an understanding, gentle, and virtuous person. Although she had never given birth to a child for him, she was really good to him. When he saw Miss Jiang, he couldn't help but compare the two of them. After comparing them, he felt that this Miss Jiang was from the county after all. She gave off a superior feeling, making him feel uncomfortable. Therefore, although Ding Junsheng had arrived at the county city, he had been loitering on the street not far from the Jiang family's entrance for a long time. When Gu Yundong stood in front of him, he suddenly came back to his senses. He didn't know if it was because of guilt or something else, but he turned around and left. However, he had only taken 2 steps when he was forced back by Ah Go. Ding Junsheng took a few steps back and stood in front of Gu Yundong. He was clearly a head taller than her, but his shoulders were hunched as if he had been abused. One don't want to remarry. I just came here for a walk. His explanation was a little revealing. Gu Yundong frowned. Who cares if you remarry or not? If anyone had to care, it would be her uncle and aunt. She looked at Ding Junsheng and said impatiently, I have something to discuss with you. What? Ding Junsheng was stunned. Gu Yundong said, go to old Gus' house and bring Yuanji out. Bring Bien Yuanji out? Ding Junsheng said awkwardly, I'm afraid that won't do. He's the Gu family's grandson to begin with, so he should be raised by the Gu family. I'm not related to him now, so it won't be right for me to ask for him. Gu Yundong sneered. The Gu family is raising him? Don't tell me you don't know what kind of life he's living in the Gu family? Ding Junsheng lowered his head. But that's also the Gu family's fault. Gu Yundong gave him a hard kick. Are you going or not? If not, you'll break your legs. Was he a man? Why did her cousin marry such a person in the first place? Zhu snorted at the side. Hey, why are you so stupid? She's only asking you to bring him out and move his household register out. She didn't ask you to raise him. Ding Junsheng suddenly realized that she would definitely raise Bien Yuanji herself. Judging from Gu Yundong's current state, she probably did not want to return to the Gu family or have anything to do with them. Moreover, that man was dressed so elegantly that day. With such a rich man, it would definitely not be difficult for her to raise Bien Yuanji. Except, what if the Gu family found out that he had lied to them and came back to settle scores with him? Gu Yundong said, Ding Junsheng, you promised my cousin to take good care of Yuanji. Not only did you fail, you even pushed him into the fire pit. Aren't you afraid that my cousin will come to settle scores with you in the middle of the night? Ding Junsheng shuddered. I'll go. That's more like it. Let's go. Gu Yundong turned around and left. Ding Junsheng hurriedly followed after her. As soon as the two of them left, a figure happened to turn around not far away. She narrowed her eyes as she watched Ding Junsheng walk further and further away. Chapter 311. Having a lover. Gu Yundong walked so fast that Ding Junsheng had to take large strides to catch up with her. Are we going now? How long do you want to wait? It's still early. I have a carriage over there. It will take less than an hour to get to Gu village. It's not even lunchtime yet. But I'm not ready yet. Gu Yundong suddenly stopped and turned to look at him. What else do you need to prepare? By the time you're done, Yuanji will be half dead. Ding Junsheng immediately didn't dare to make a sound. B0x. Calm. Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes. Don't tell me you're trying to stall for time and take the opportunity to escape. No. You know where my home is. I can't escape. I'm glad you know. Gu Yundong continued to walk forward. When she reached the carriage, she immediately chased him up. Ding Junsheng had never sat in such a good carriage before. For some reason, he was actually a little happy. He did not dare to move and sat down obediently. However, he was a little puzzled. This girl from the Gu family seemed to be different from before. But it made sense. After marrying a rich man, she would have confidence and there would be someone to back her up. Dog drove the carriage. However, just as they left the city gate, an ox cart brushed past them and entered the county. The person who came was Madame Hu. She was still worried that her son would say something he shouldn't and anger the girl away. Hence, as soon as she felt slightly better, she immediately got on the ox cart of her fellow villagers and rushed over. Madame Hu alighted from the ox cart and went straight to the Jiang family. Unexpectedly, as soon as she reached the entrance of the Jiang family, she bumped into Miss Jiang, and there was no sign of her son beside her. Madame Hu thought to herself, "Oh no, did he mess it up?" Just as she was thinking about it, Miss Jiang also saw her. Madame Hu quickly squeezed out a smile and went up to her. "Miss Jiang, what a coincidence. Did you see our Jinqing? He said that he wanted to apologize to you early in the morning. He even said that he wanted to queue up to buy pastries for you." Before she could finish speaking, she was interrupted by Miss Jiang. "Auntie, don't joke around. No wonder he doesn't like anyone. He already has a lover. The girl is young and beautiful. Your Ding Jinqing is quite lucky." After saying that, she snorted and turned to enter the door, closing it with a bang. Madame Hu wanted to step forward, but she was almost hit in the nose and could only take 2 steps back. Jinqing had a lover? Who was it? Why didn't this kid tell her earlier that he had a lover? She was young and beautiful. Well, how could his mother not let him marry her? Madame Hu muttered in frustration. No, she had to go back. When that kid returned, she would ask him what was going on. Madame Hu walked back to Shangbei village in the ox cart. When they were about to reach Gu village, they saw a carriage parked there from afar. She did not dare to look too long. Those who had carriages were all rich people. Who knew what kind of person with a temper was sitting inside? Madame Hu got off the ox cart. Unexpectedly, as soon as she entered Shangbei village, she saw a person from the same village say, "Auntie, why did your Jinqing go to Gu village? What's so strange about going to Gu village?" Madame Hu didn't mind. "My Jinqing is kind-hearted. He goes to visit Mulan's younger brother from time to time. He'll be back soon." Madame Hu was right about this. Ding Jinqing would go to the Gu village once a month. It was unknown if it was because of his conscience or for his reputation, but every time he went to Madame Hu, he was not allowed to carry gifts. Chapter 312. I'll raise him because of this. Every time Ding Jinqing visited him, Yuan Ji would not eat that night. Madame Zhao said that Ding Jinqing had brought him food, so he must have hidden it, although she never found anything. However, this made them even angrier. Sometimes, they didn't even give him breakfast the next day. Madame Hu felt that it was fine if Jinqing just went to see the child. This time, she didn't think much of it either, but as soon as she entered the house, what Miss Jiang had said suddenly flashed through her mind. She was young and beautiful, but Jinqing didn't tell his mother about her. B0X. Como no, wasn't there one in Gu village? That was Gu Gang's new concubine. Madame Hu scolded the vixen fiercely. No wonder Jinqing always ran to the Gu village. Did he hook up with a married woman? Damn it, why did he fall for that woman? Madame Hu couldn't stay any longer. No, she had to quickly bring Ding Jinqing back. He couldn't be ruined by that woman. Thinking of this, she got up and left quickly. At this moment, Ding Jinqing had already arrived at the entrance of old Gus' house. Bian Yuanji was the first to see him, and his face instantly turned pale. He knew that he would not have dinner every time his ex-brother-in-law came. He had clearly told this guy several times not to come again. This guy had also agreed last time. Why did he still come? Bian Yuanji was in despair as he heard his second aunt's mocking voice. "Hey, isn't this Yuanzi's brother-in-law? What's wrong? You're here to see Yuanji again? Since you care so much about Yuanji, why don't you take him away and raise him yourself?" Ding Jinqing swallowed his saliva. He had put down the carriage a kilometer away from the Gu village and came alone. Gu Yundong and the rest were still in the carriage. Hearing Gu Da's wife's mocking voice, he immediately agreed with her. "Alright, they'll take him away. Our family will raise him in the future." Madame Jia was stunned. The other Gu family members who came out were also stunned. "Are you serious?" Ding Jinqing secretly heaved a sigh of relief. "Of course it's true. Look at how badly you've tortured him. I really can't stand it anymore. I'll take him away today. From now on, he's a member of my Ding family. I promised his sister to take good care of him. Bian Yuanji was a bit surprised when he heard that, but now he became numb. Actually, there was no difference whether it was in the Gu family or the Ding family. He stood silently in the corner, as if everything had nothing to do with him. However, Ding Jincheng looked at him. Yuanji, are you willing to come with me? He thought that Bian Yuanji was willing to do so. After all, he often came to visit him and old Gu would beat and scold him. At least he would comfort and encourage him. He might be the only person who treated this kid well. Bian Yuanji raised his head and glanced at him indifferently. This was his brother-in-law. When his sister was still alive, he had treated him quite well. It was not until they were separated from their parents when they fled that the Ding family despised the siblings for being a burden. He had heard Madame Hu say with his own ears that his sister was a hen who couldn't lay eggs. It was fine if she couldn't carry the Ding family's children, but she even had to bring a burden. At that time, his brother-in-law did not dare to say anything. He just sat at the side with his head lowered, as if he was afraid that this scolding would affect him. Bian Yuanji felt that this was not the behavior of a husband. He defended his sister, but his sister wouldn't let him stand up for her. She said that it was just a few words of scolding, and she wouldn't lose anything. Now, this person who could not make the decision at home said that he wanted to raise him. Chapter 313, Gu Gang is here. Bian Yuanji lowered his head again. He always felt that it was impossible. Ding Jincheng was stunned when he saw that he did not agree immediately. On the other hand, the people from the Gu family became smug. Madame Zhao snorted coldly. Ding Jincheng, what are you thinking? Back then, it was your family who didn't want him and left him at our door. Now, you want to go back? Dream on. Who do you think you are? Do you think you can take or abandon him as you wish? Ding Jincheng instantly panicked. He thought that things would go smoothly. After all, the Gu family did not like Yuanji. B0x. Calm, you don't even treat him as your biological grandson. Since you don't like him, why are you still raising him? Wouldn't it be a good opportunity for me to take him away? Who doesn't treat him as a biological grandson? Gu Chuanzong suddenly scolded. Don't spout sh*t everywhere and ruin our Gu family's reputation. I, Gu Chuanzong, can raise my own grandson. I don't need an outsider like you. Ding Jincheng wanted to grab the dirt on the ground and throw it at his face. The most shameless person was this old man. That's right. Gu Dai leaned against the side and said lazily, Hey, you have to be careful with your words. Yuanji is doted on by us uncles, aunts, cousins and is very happy. Why are you saying that we don't have any feelings? You don't have it in the first place. Ding Jincheng was furious. This was a well-known fact, yet they were still lying through their teeth. At this moment, the people from Gu village heard the commotion and came over to watch it. When they heard that Ding Jincheng wanted Bian Yuanji back, they were surprised that the Gu family didn't agree. The patriarch, Gu Gang, also came over, accompanied by a young and weak woman. He was the patriarch, so he naturally stood in the middle as soon as he came over. He frowned and looked at the two of them. What's going on? You're all living too well. Are you starting to look for trouble? How can that be? Patriarch, it's all because this Ding Jincheng went crazy and suddenly came to our place to take Yuanji away. Madame Zhao reported him first. Before Gu Gang could speak, his concubine, Madame Shen, covered her mouth and laughed. Why should he take her away? She's a child of the Gu family. How can we let an outsider take her away? Madame Zhao pursed her lips. She did not like this vixen. At such a young age, she was so indecent and followed someone who could be his grandfather. She even dressed up all day and led the children of their village astray. However, in front of the patriarch, Madame Zhao did not dare to say anything. She even had to lick her cheeks and say, Isn't that so? If others find out, what will they say about our Gu family? MDM Shen nodded. This child is already 7 years old, right? In a few more years, he will be able to marry a wife with some betrothal gifts. Our Gu village will have more people and everyone will be happy. You people from Shangbei village, don't come and join in the fun. Go home and live your lives well. What you said makes sense. Clan leader Gu looked very happy. He felt that bringing this concubine out was a great honor. However, Madame Zhao frowned. What betrothal gifts? It's not easy for us to raise him, yet we're preparing betrothal gift for him? He has his own hands and feet. He can earn it himself. If he can't earn it, then don't get married. That's his life. MDM Shen was a little surprised. You're not going to give him betrothal gifts? That's impossible. The county magistrate said it himself. Have you forgotten? No way. It's such an important thing. What did the county magistrate say? They really couldn't remember and panicked. Chapter 314. Shen's assistants. MDM Shen shook her head and sighed. The county magistrate said that there are too few people in Yongning village now. It's lucky that this child survived the famine. We should nurture him well. When he grows up, he will offer some betrothal gifts and marry a good girl. He will give birth to more children to increase the population of Yongning Prefecture. Have you forgotten such an important thing? Well, the members of the Gu family looked at each other. The county magistrate did talk a lot back then, and he vaguely mentioned getting married and having children. But the county magistrate was a well-educated man. His words were full of twists and turns. One simple sentence had to get so complicated that it made them dizzy. MDM Shen clicked her tongue. Although the county magistrate might have said it casually, he might remember it at some point. I think we should take his words to heart. I even told my husband to pay some money for the wedding. The county magistrate will praise us later. B0X. Gu Gang was a little confused. When did he say that he was going to offer money? He had always been a money grubber. How could he give away money? Frowning, Gu Gang looked at his concubine. MDM Shen saw that the people from the Gu family were discussing this matter softly and did not notice her. She quickly whispered to Gu Gang, "Husband, why don't you understand? We can't let that child continue to stay in the Gu family. Look at how the Gu family treats him. He doesn't have enough to eat or wear. He's dressed like a beggar and they even let him work outside every day." Gu Gang was stunned for a moment before he heard her continue, "Husband, you're the chief. What will outsiders think of you when they see that the children in our village are living such a hard life? What will they think about the entire village? Do we still have our reputation? Do we still have our image? Look at the young man who came yesterday and was about to settle down here. Didn't he say that he met Bien Yuanji at the entrance of the village? If this child continues to stay in our village, it will be a disgrace to the Gu village and to you. If no one comes here to settle down in the future, where will you get the money?" Gu Gang's body trembled, and he suddenly came back to his senses. Bien Yuanji walked around the village in shabby clothes all day long, which made Gu Gang's eyes hurt. If outsiders saw him, they would think that his village was full of beggars. Seeing the change in his expression, MDM Shen continued, "So, we can't let Bien Yuanji stay in our village. If the county magistrate really remembers him and finds out that he's living such a hard life, he might blame the Gu family. However, as the head of the clan, you can't escape being scolded. Now that Ding Jincheng is finally willing to take the child away, just let him. When the county magistrate asks later, you can find a beautiful excuse and you might be praised." Gu Gang felt that what she said made too much sense. As expected, he had taken in the right concubine. She was much smarter than that woman at home. If not for the fact that they were in public, he would have hugged her and kissed her. MDM Shen pinched him. Gu Gang cleared his throat and said, "I did say that I wanted to prepare a gift for this child. Just one tael of silver. Old Gu, you have to find a good woman for this child. Just give her more betrothal gifts. It will be embarrassing if word gets out. It shows that you value the county magistrate's words and bring good luck to our Gu village." When Madame Zhao heard that they still had to pay so much money, she immediately refused and hurriedly said, "Patriarch, actually, our family is really poor. Look at how many children there are in my second and third son's families. Yuanji can't eat well or wear warm clothes here. Since the Ding family wants it, let's give it to the Ding family." When Ding Jincheng heard this, he did not expect things to take a turn for the better. A smile instantly appeared on his face. Chapter 315. Taken away. Ding Jincheng secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Now, as long as he took this child away and changed his household register, he would be able to live up to Milan's entrustment. However, just as he was about to take Bian Yuanzi's hand, someone rushed out from the other side. Ding Jincheng, how dare you? Everyone suddenly turned around and saw Madame Hu running over with disheveled hair. As soon as she came over, she pulled Ding Jincheng back. After pulling him out of old Gus' house, she slapped him hard. You're crazy. You actually want to bring this little bastard back. You can't even raise yourself. Why are you being a kind person and raising him? You're really crazy. Let me tell you, if you dare to bring him back, I'll beat him to death. B0X. Calm. Ding Jincheng's expression changed drastically. Mother, what are you doing? Let go. Yuanji is living too hard a life here. I promised Mulan to take good care of him. Don't cause trouble. You promised what? That little bastard was assigned to the old Gu family by the county magistrate. How dare you disobey the county magistrate's order? Do you want to die? Go back and don't come to the Gu village again, or I'll break your legs. Madame Hu was about to go crazy from anger. She thought that he had taken a fancy to that little B***Tisch and ran over here. She didn't expect him to adopt the little bastard for that Bien Milan who was infertile. She couldn't tell that her son was a devoted person. No wonder he didn't even like Miss Jiang. Bien Mulan, that B***Tisch, still wanted to seduce her son's soul even after she died. When old Gu saw the sudden change in the situation, they were a little shocked. At this moment, they finally reacted and hurriedly went to stop her. Sister-in-law Hu, wait a moment. What's wrong with you? You came and went as you pleased. Do you think we're monkeys? It was Madame Jia who spoke. She reached out and blocked Madame Hu. Madame Hu was taller and stronger than her. She reached out and pushed her aside. Screw you. Tell that to the county magistrate if you dare. If the county magistrate says that he wants us to raise that bastard, he'll take him away without hesitation. Madame Jia immediately choked. The others present were also stunned. It was one thing for the Ding family to take Bien Yuanji away voluntarily, but the Gu family couldn't force them. Madame Hu snorted and pulled Ding Jincheng away. The latter was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. Why did his mother come all of a sudden? Mother, I'm not leaving. I want to raise Yuanji. Mulan sent me a dream last night and asked me to take good care of Yuanji. I can't. Shut up. I knew you were thinking about that little B***Tis. Why did she visit you in a dream? Do you think I'm easy to deceive? Madame Hu shouted outside. Old Ding, why are you still standing there? Hurry up and pull this embarrassing thing home. Madame Hu had pulled Mr. Ding over with her. However, when they arrived at the village entrance, Madame Hu heard that Ding Jincheng wanted to bring the child home, so she ran over quickly. At this moment, Madame Hu called out to Father Ding. Father Ding was a burly and strong man. No matter how much Ding Jincheng didn't want to leave, he was pulled away. The others looked at each other. Gu Gang lowered his head and quietly asked MDM Shen, "What should we do now?" MDM Shen was also a little confused. She glanced at a corner without a trace and said in a low voice, "Let's wait and see." The most important part of taking Bien Yuanji away was Ding Jincheng. Now that he was gone, how could they continue? The Gu family was especially furious. When they saw Bien Yuanji, they glared at him fiercely. If not for the fact that the onlookers were still around, Madame Zhao would have gone forward to hit him. Chapter 316. Unprofessional. However, when she passed by him, Madame Zhao still snorted. There's no need to eat tonight. Bien Yuanji slightly lowered his head. He knew that every time his brother-in-law came, he would have no dinner. Hence, he did not say a word and just stood there motionless with his head lowered. This time, even Gu Chuanzong was a little angry. He had made a fool of himself for nothing, so when he walked to his side, he said, "You don't have to eat tomorrow. You're just causing trouble for the family." Bien Yuanji didn't want to cry, but he couldn't control himself. B0X. It was fine for Madame Zhao to scold him. Her mother said that she was not his biological grandmother, but his grandfather was different. Why didn't he treat him as his grandson? The onlookers gradually dispersed. Watching Bien Yuanji standing alone at the gate of the courtyard, they all let out a sigh. Actually, so what if Ding Jincheng took him away? It would be strange if Madame Hu, that shrew, treated him well. He was afraid that his life would be worse than living in the Gu family. After all, the Gu family were his relatives. Gradually, no one was left at the entrance of Old Gus' house, except for Bien Yuan. Although it was already spring, his clothes were still very thin and cold. Suddenly, a person stood in front of him. He was tall and big, as if he was blocking the wind in front of him. Bien Yuan raised his reddened eyes and a white steamed bun appeared in front of him. He was stunned for a moment before he heard the man in front of him say, "Eat. I'll warm you up. Hold on for another day." After saying that, he stuffed the steamed bun into his arms and strode away. Bien Yuan was stunned. The white steamed bun was even bigger and whiter than the one the man gave him yesterday. It looked delicious. He couldn't help but take a big bite. Delicious. Wiping his tears, Bien Yuan turned around and ate the white steamed bun in big mouthfuls. Then he wiped his mouth and smiled. That was great. A steamed bun could last him until tomorrow. These 2 days he always met good people who gave him steamed buns to eat. Shao Qingyuan, who was standing far away, saw the relaxed smile on his face. He then turned around and left Gu village in large strides. Gu Yundong was still in the carriage. As it was a little far away, she did not see Madame Hu and Father Ding, who had arrived at Gu village from the other side to take Ding Jincheng away. It was only when Shao Qingyan came over and told her the process that she frowned fiercely. Go and Zhu, who were standing outside the carriage, also kicked the tree trunk at the side angrily. Why did that woman come out to cause trouble? Miss, what should we do next? Why don't we trick Madame Hu out and let Ding Jincheng finish the matter before letting her go back? How can we do that? We still have to get the child's household register out. It won't be a short time. Gu Yundong also shook her head. After Madame Hu finds out about what happened today, she will definitely stay by Ding Jincheng's side all day long. We won't be able to deceive her. Then what do we do? Gu Yundong thought for a moment and tapped her fingers lightly on the windowsill. After a while, she raised her eyebrows. Got it. What is it? Go and Zhu hurriedly approached. Gu Yundong smiled. I'm a professional in acting. Madame Hu did not believe that Ding Jincheng dreamed of her cousin? Then let her see her in person. Let's go to town first and buy some things we need. This time, she couldn't use the space. The town was close, and the carriage arrived not long after. Gu Yundong bought a lot of miscellaneous items. Then, she parked the carriage beside an inconspicuous small mountain ditch by the roadside of Shangbei village. Then she asked Shao Qingyuan, Go, and a pig to get off while she fiddled with the items on the carriage for a long time. Chapter 317. Wetting her pants after a long time, Gu Yundong drew the curtain. Unexpectedly, when they showed their faces, Go and Zhu took a few steps back and shouted, "Ghost!" Gu Yundong glared at them. Who are you calling? Her glare made the two of them shiver in fear. Shao Qingyuan was still very calm. He went forward and sized her up. I can't see your original appearance at all. B0x. It's fine. Anyway, ghosts are the same. Madame Hu won't be able to recognize if I'm my cousin or not. Her hair was down and her face was pale. Blood flowed from the corners of her eyes and nostrils, and there were heavy dark circles around her eyes. Coupled with her bright red lips, anyone who saw her would be frightened to death. How could they recognize her? If Madame Hu really had the guts, Gu Yundong would admire her. Gu Yundong had already looked at himself in the mirror in the carriage and expressed his satisfaction. Only then did she look at Go and Zhu. The two of them slowly leaned against each other, wanting to hug each other for warmth. It was true. When Lady Gu looked at him, they felt as if their souls were about to leave their bodies. Gu Yundong glanced at them. It's your turn. Oh, our turn? What are we going to do? Gu Yundong took out a set of things from the carriage. You'll pretend to be the black and white ghosts. No, they wanted to stay away from her. Now, she looked terrifying even during the day. They even had to be by her side at night. They were so scared that they peed their pants. Gu Yundong did not care about them. She made a tall hat to increase their height and make them oppressing. Coupled with the long tongue and dark circles under their eyes, they looked good. After dressing up, the group went straight to Shangbei village. When it was dark, They got out of the carriage and went straight to the Ding family. Ah Go and Zhu had adapted to Gu Yundong's attire and found it interesting. Shao Qingyuan stood in the courtyard to keep watch. Gu Yundong went to Madame Hu and Father Ding's room and stood by the bed with Ah Go and Ah Zhu, who were acting as the black and white ghosts. She reached out and patted Madame Hu's face. Madame Hu frowned and waved her hand. She turned around and continued sleeping. Gu Yundong frowned and asked Ah Go to wake her up. However, Madame Hu was sleeping like a dead pig. No matter how they shouted or patted, she couldn't wake up from the deep sleep. Ah Zhu waved his hand. Let me do it. He went up and pulled Madame Hu's hairs out, 2 at a time. Gu Yundong was speechless. What if you make her bald? Fortunately, this method worked. Madame Hu gasped in pain and rubbed her eyes. Unexpectedly, when she opened her eyes, 3 terrifying faces suddenly appeared in front of her. Ah! Madame Hu screamed and quickly crawled back, pressing down on Father Ding's finger. It was so painful that he suddenly woke up too. Gu Yundong shushed her. Don't scream. Madame Hu instantly felt like she was being strangled. She stared at the 3 people in front of her with wide eyes and trembling hands. Mr. Ding Father Ding was so frightened that his face turned pale and he could not say a word. Gu Yundong could not help but sniffle. Why did it smell like urine? She glanced at Madame Hu and wanted to leave, but she held her breath and stayed. Mother, she called out faintly. Madame Hu shivered again. Who are you? I don't know you. Boo-hoo, why don't you know me? Milan. I died so tragically. Milan TDET? Why are you looking for me? You're dead, but I didn't kill you. Boo-hoo, let me go.